Story 1. After 18 months of chemo and ringing the bell, I texted, "I'm cancer-free." Landing at 3 p.m., Terminal 5. My family never replied, just left me on read. Not a single person showed up. I stood there alone. Then my sister texted, "Still waiting on the $11,400 for the last 3 months' rent." I didn't respond. Went home and ended all financial help. By midnight, the entire family group chat exploded. I'm going to tell you something that still doesn't feel real, even though I lived through every second of it. The thing about cancer is that it teaches you who people really are. Not in some inspirational poster kind of way, I mean it literally strips away every polite fiction and shows you the raw truth underneath. And sometimes the truth is so ugly you wish you'd never looked. I rang the bell on a Tuesday morning. September 12, 2023. The oncology nurses at Memorial Sloan Kettering cheered like I'd won the Super Bowl. 18 months of chemotherapy, countless radiation sessions, 3 surgeries, and more bad days than I can count, all behind me. Stage 3 colon cancer, and I'd beaten it. The scans were clear. My oncologist, Dr. Rivera, actually had tears in her eyes when she told me. "You're a fighter, Marcus," she said. "Go live your life." I was 34 years old, and I'd just gotten a second chance. The flight back to Chicago felt surreal. I kept touching the small bronze bell charm the hospital had given me, rubbing it between my fingers like a talisman. I couldn't stop grinning at strangers. An older woman in 14C asked me why I looked so happy, and I told her everything. She cried and hugged me right there in the aisle. The flight attendants gave me free drinks. It was the kind of day you dream about during the darkest nights when the nausea won't stop and you're not sure you'll make it to morning. I'd texted my family from the gate in New York. The whole family group chat, Mom, Dad, my older sister Vanessa, my younger brother Julian, even my Aunt Carol who was always on her phone. 15 people total, all the relatives who mattered. I'm cancer-free. Scans are perfect. Rang the bell this morning. Landing at O'Hare at 3 p.m., Terminal 5. Can't wait to see everyone. I added 3 celebration emojis. Heart emojis. I felt like a kid on Christmas morning. The message showed read almost immediately. Little checkmarks appeared one by one as people opened it. I watched them populate across the screen, feeling this warm expansion in my chest. They'd all see it. They'd all know. Maybe someone would organize a surprise at the airport. My mom loved that kind of thing. She'd done it for Vanessa when she came back from her semester abroad, made a whole banner and everything. But nobody replied. Not one person. I stared at my phone for the entire flight, checking it compulsively even though we were supposed to have it in airplane mode. I'd paid for the in-flight Wi-Fi just to keep refreshing. Nothing. The red receipts were there, mocking me. Everyone had seen it. They just hadn't responded. Maybe they were planning something big, I told myself. Maybe they wanted it to be a surprise. Terminal 5 at O'Hare is enormous and always crowded. I came down the escalator to baggage claim with my heart hammering, scanning the crowd for familiar faces. For balloons. For a homemade sign with my name on it. For my mother's smile or my father's hearty laugh or Vanessa's eye roll that meant she loved you but would never admit it directly. There was nothing. Families reunited all around me. A little girl ran screaming "Daddy" into her father's arms. A couple kissed like they'd been separated for years. An elderly man held up a tablet with "Welcome Home Sarah" in Comic Sans, and a young woman burst into tears when she saw it. I stood there with my duffel bag for 40 minutes. I told myself they were stuck in traffic. Chicago traffic was terrible. Everyone knew that. They'd be here. They were coming. My phone buzzed at 3:47 p.m. It was Vanessa. Still waiting on the $11,400 for the last 3 months' rent. Mom's landlord is threatening eviction. When can you send it? I read the message 3 times. My hands had started shaking, not from weakness, but from something else. Something that felt like ice water spreading through my veins. No congratulations. No so happy for you. No welcome home. Just a bill. I didn't respond. I couldn't. If I'd tried to type anything right then, I don't know what would have come out. I took an Uber home to my apartment in Lincoln Park. The driver asked me if I was okay. I must have looked like death, ironic, considering I'd just been told I wasn't dying anymore. I tipped him $50 and told him I was fine. My apartment felt too quiet. I'd been gone for 3 weeks for the final treatment phase, staying in an extended stay hotel near the hospital. Someone had watered my plants, my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who I'd asked to check in. She'd left a welcome home card on the kitchen counter with a plastic-wrapped plate of homemade dumplings. I cried when I saw it. Mrs. Chen, who I barely knew, who I just smiled at in the hallway sometimes, had done more than my entire family. I sat on my couch in the dark for a long time, just breathing. Then I opened my laptop. I'm not an emotional person by nature. I'm a software engineer. I solve problems with logic and systems. But I'd spent 18 months being emotional because cancer doesn't give you a choice. It cracks you open. I'd cried in front of doctors. I'd begged God to let me live. I'd called my mother at 2 a.m. during the worst of the chemo sickness, sobbing like a child. And through all of it, I'd been the one holding my family together financially. Let me back up. You need to understand the setup to understand what came next. My father had a stroke 6 years ago. Massive one, left side paralysis. He was only 59. He survived, but he never worked again. Couldn't. The man who'd taught me how to throw a baseball and build bookshelves spent his days in a wheelchair, struggling to form complete sentences. It broke something in all of us. My mother tried to work. She'd been a part-time bookkeeper before, but the stress of caring for Dad full-time was too much. She was drowning. So I stepped in. Started covering their rent. Then their utilities. Then the medical bills insurance wouldn't touch. Vanessa had 2 kids and a husband who'd been between jobs for 4 years. They were staying in a bigger place than they could afford, and every few months there was a crisis. Heat shut off in winter. Car repossessed. Emergency room visits because the kids had no insurance. I covered it. Always. Because they were family, and family helped each other. Julian was the baby, 28 and still finding himself. Which apparently meant living in a downtown studio I paid for while he took acting classes and worked part-time at a coffee shop. He had dreams. I respected that. I'd been supporting those dreams for 3 years. Aunt Carol had medical debt from her diabetes. I'd consolidated it for her, put it on my credit cards, made the payments. She sent me thank you cards with little angels on them every month. When I got diagnosed with cancer, I was supporting 6 households in addition to my own. I made good money, really good money. Senior developer at a fintech startup, 6 figures, stock options. I was careful with money. I'd saved aggressively. I thought I was set. Then cancer ate through my savings like acid through paper. The costs weren't what you'd expect. Insurance covered most of the treatment, technically. But there were gaps. Huge gaps. Experimental medications that might extend my life weren't covered. The nutritionist who helped me figure out what I could eat without vomiting wasn't covered. The therapy I needed to cope with the reality of possibly dying before I turned 35 wasn't covered. Travel to New York for the best oncology team wasn't covered. The special supplements and foods and equipment I needed, none of it covered. I'd burned through my emergency fund in the first 3 months. Started liquidating investments by month 6. By the time I rang that bell, I'd spent everything I had. My retirement accounts were empty. My savings were gone. I had medical debt stacked so high I'd stopped opening the envelopes. But I never stopped paying for my family. Not once. Even when I was too weak to walk to the bathroom without help, I was transferring money. Vanessa would text about the kids needing school supplies. Julian needed headshots for auditions. Mom's prescription copays had gone up. The requests never stopped, and I never said no. Because I thought we were in it together. I thought that's what family meant. You help each other. When someone's drowning, you throw them a rope. When someone's dying, you show up. I opened my banking app on my laptop and started going through my accounts. I'd set up automatic transfers for most of the family payments. Mom's rent on the first of every month. Vanessa's utility bills. Julian's studio lease. Carol's credit card payments. I canceled every single one. It took me 45 minutes to go through all my accounts and stop every automatic payment. Then I went through my credit cards and removed my family as authorized users. I called my bank and set up fraud alerts. I changed my passwords to everything. I didn't send a message explaining. I didn't make an announcement. I just cut them off cleanly, like a surgeon removing something diseased. Then I ordered Chinese food, ate Mrs. Chen's dumplings, and went to bed. I slept for 14 hours straight. Best sleep I'd had in a year and a half. My phone woke me up at midnight. Buzzing like a hornet's nest. The family group chat was exploding. Mom, Marcus, why did my rent check bounce? The landlord is calling me. What's going on? Vanessa, did you close your account? My grocery payment didn't go through and I'm standing here at Jewel with a full cart looking like an idiot. Julian, dude, my rent is due tomorrow. What happened to the transfer? Aunt Carol, sweetheart, I think there's been a mistake with the credit card payment? And then more. Cousins I barely talked to. Uncle Mike, who I'd helped with his car payment once. People I'd forgotten I was helping. Everyone wanted to know what was wrong with the money. The money that usually just appeared like magic. Nobody mentioned cancer. Nobody said congratulations. Nobody apologized for not being at the airport. They just wanted to know where their money was. I watched the messages pile up, lying in my dark bedroom. My phone screen lit up my face in that cold blue light. There were 47 messages. Then 60. Then 83. I turned my phone off and went back to sleep. In the morning, I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table. Weak sunlight came through the windows. Outside, Chicago was waking up, Car horns, the distant rumble of the L train, someone's dog barking. Normal sounds. Life continuing like it always did. My phone had 247 messages when I turned it back on. The group chat had evolved overnight. The tone had shifted from confused to angry to panicked. My mother had tried calling 18 times. Vanessa had left voicemails that started worried and ended furious. Julian's messages got increasingly desperate. There were also private messages. These were worse. Vanessa, what the heck is wrong with you? We're family. You can't just cut us off without warning. I have children, Marcus. They need to eat. This is so selfish I can't even believe it. Mom, I don't understand what I did wrong. Please call me. I'm so worried. Is this about us not coming to the airport? Honey, we thought you wanted space after everything you'd been through. We didn't want to overwhelm you. That one made me laugh. Actually laugh out loud, a bitter sound that echoed in my empty apartment. They thought I wanted space. After 18 months of feeling like I was invisible unless I was sending money. Julian, this is messed up, man. I've been there for you through everything. Remember when I visited you in the hospital that one time? And now you're going to leave me homeless? Real nice brother. He'd visited once. One time in 18 months. He'd stayed for 40 minutes, spent most of it on his phone, and asked me for money before he left because parking was expensive. I made myself breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, simple food that my still recovering digestive system could handle. My hands were steady. I felt calm in a way I hadn't felt in years. Like something that had been pressing down on me had finally lifted. I wasn't angry. That was the weird part. I thought I'd be furious, but I just felt clear. I opened my laptop and started a new document. I'm a technical person, so I approached this like a project. I needed to document everything. For myself, if nothing else. I titled it, Family Financial Support, January 2018, September 2023. Then I went through 5 years of bank statements, credit card bills, Venmo transactions, every record I had. I built a spreadsheet. Color-coded it. Made pivot tables. Graphed the data. I'd been supporting my family financially for 5 years, but the amount had tripled after Dad's stroke. The total came to $347,891. $347,891. I stared at that number for a long time. That was a house. That was early retirement. That was screw you money that could have let me take a year off after cancer treatment to recover properly, to travel, to actually live the life I'd almost lost. Instead, it was gone. Every penny. And when I'd needed them most, when I was standing in that airport having just survived something that kills 60% of people at my stage, they couldn't even send a text message. But they could ask for more money. My phone rang. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. She called back immediately. And again. On the fourth call, I answered. Marcus, thank God. What is going on? Why won't you answer anyone? Her voice was high and strained, the tone she used when she was genuinely upset. Hey, Mom. Don't hey mom me. Your sister is losing her mind. She can't pay for groceries. Julian's landlord is threatening to change the locks. And my rent check bounced. Marcus, my landlord called me at 7 in the morning. I've never been so humiliated in my life. I took a sip of coffee. It was still hot, just the right temperature. I stopped the payments. Silence on the other end. Then, what do you mean you stopped the payments? I canceled all the automatic transfers. Removed everyone as authorized users on my credit cards. I'm not paying for anything anymore. But you can't just. She sounded genuinely confused, like I'd announced I was giving up breathing. Marcus, we depend on that money. You know we need it. What are we supposed to do? I don't know, Mom. Figure it out like other people do. Other people? Her voice went sharp. Other people don't have your father in this condition. Other people don't have a daughter with 2 small children and a useless husband. You have the money, Marcus. You've always had the money. You're being cruel for no reason. Something in my chest went tight. I had the money. Past tense. Do you know how much cancer treatment costs? Insurance covered it. Insurance covered some of it. Not the specialist in New York. Not the medications that kept me alive. I stopped. Took a breath. I've spent everything, Mom. Every penny I saved. I'm in debt up to my eyeballs. I'm broke. You're not broke. You have a good job. You make 6 figures. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being honest. I can't afford to support everyone anymore. I can barely afford to support myself. So what, we're just supposed to suffer because you got sick? The words came out sharp and fast, like she'd been holding them back. That's not our fault, Marcus. We didn't give you cancer. I felt something crack inside my chest. No, you didn't. But you also didn't show up when I was fighting it. You weren't at the airport yesterday. I told you, we thought you wanted space. I sent a message to 15 people saying I was cancer-free and asked to be picked up from the airport. That's not wanting space, Mom. That's asking for help. And every single person read it and ignored me. But Vanessa managed to text me about rent money within 4 hours. Silence again. Longer this time. You're being unfair, she finally said, but her voice had lost some of its conviction. Am I? Let me ask you something. When's the last time anyone in this family asked me how I was doing? Not about money. About me. How I'm feeling. If I'm okay. If I'm scared. We ask you all the time. No, you don't. You ask if I got the message about Vanessa's electric bill. You ask if I saw Julian's text about his acting class fees. You ask if I can cover an extra month because things are tight. Nobody asks about me. That's not true. We care about you. We love you. Then why didn't anyone come to the airport? She didn't have an answer for that. Or if she did, she didn't say it. I have to go, Mom. I have a lot to figure out. Marcus, wait, we need to talk about this. You can't just abandon your family. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm just not funding everyone's lives anymore. There's a difference. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking now. Not from weakness, from adrenaline. From actually saying the things I'd been thinking for months but never dared to voice. The phone rang again immediately. Vanessa this time. I declined the call. Then Julian. Declined. Aunt Carol. Declined. I silenced my phone and put it face down on the table. For the first time in 5 years, I spent the morning thinking about what I wanted. Not what my family needed. Not what crisis required my immediate financial intervention. Just what I wanted. The answer surprised me. I wanted to disappear. Not forever. Not dramatically. I just wanted to be somewhere else for a while, somewhere nobody knew I'd almost died, somewhere I didn't have to be the responsible one or the ATM or the person everyone leaned on. I opened my laptop and started looking at flights. Costa Rica had always sounded nice. Warm beaches, cheap cost of living, no extradition treaties. That last part was a joke. Mostly. I found a one-bedroom apartment in Jakarta for $800 a month. The photo showed a small balcony with an ocean view. My current rent in Lincoln Park was $2,400. I could work remotely, my company had gone full remote during the pandemic and never switched back. I'd have to deal with the time difference, but that was manageable. I could actually afford to live there. Comfortably. Maybe even save money again. The idea took hold like a fever. I started planning. Made lists. Researched visa requirements. I could get a tourist visa for 90 days, then extend it. Or apply for residency after that. I had options. My phone was still blowing up, the screen lighting up every few seconds even though it was silenced. I ignored it. By noon, I booked a flight for the following week. One way. 2 checked bags. I'd pack light, sell or donate the rest. I felt like I was breathing properly for the first time in years. Then my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw Vanessa standing in the hallway, arms crossed, face tight with anger. Behind her was Julian, looking uncomfortable. I didn't want to open the door. But they knew I was home, my car was in the lot, and they could probably hear me moving around. I took a breath and opened it. What the heck, Marcus? Vanessa pushed past me into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. Julian followed, mumbling an apology. Hello to you too, I said, closing the door. Don't hello me. What is wrong with you? Do you have any idea what you've done? She was wearing workout clothes, her hair in a messy ponytail, and she looked like she hadn't slept. My kids are asking me why we can't buy food. My husband is freaking out about the rent. And you're just sitting here like nothing's wrong? I'm not sitting here like nothing's wrong. I'm making plans. Plans? Plans for what? Plans to destroy your family? Julian shifted uncomfortably by the door. Ness, maybe we should calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. She wheeled on him. You're about to be evicted because of him. Because of me? I felt my own anger rising now, heat climbing up my neck. No. You're about to be evicted because you can't pay your own rent. That's not my fault. You've been paying it for 3 years. You can't just stop without warning. I've been paying it for 3 years when I shouldn't have been. You have a husband, Vanessa. He should be supporting his family, not me. He's trying. He's been trying for 4 years. At what point do we acknowledge that he's not actually trying? He's just letting me subsidize your life while he pretends to look for work. Her face flushed red. You don't know anything about our situation. I know I've sent you $73,000 over 3 years. I know that when I had cancer, you visited me twice. Both times you left within an hour because the kids needed something. And I know that yesterday, when I told everyone I was cancer-free, you didn't say congratulations. You asked for rent money. Julian made a small sound. Almost like a gasp. Vanessa's eyes were shining now, but I couldn't tell if it was from rage or tears. You're throwing that in my face? You're using your cancer to manipulate us? I'm not manipulating anyone. I'm telling you the truth. And the truth is that I almost died, and none of you acted like you cared. Of course we cared. We were worried sick. Then where were you? My voice came out louder than I intended. Where were you at the airport? Where were you when I rang the bell? Where were you during 18 months of chemo when I was so sick I wanted to die just to make it stop? She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. We didn't know how to help. You could have been there. That's how you help. You show up. You sit there even if you can't do anything. You send a text that says I'm thinking of you instead of can you cover my electric bill? Julian cleared his throat. Marcus, man, I'm sorry. I should have been there more. I didn't know what to say. Hospitals freak me out. I looked at my little brother. He did look sorry, at least. Uncomfortable and guilty and young, even though he was 28. I didn't need you to say anything, Jules. I just needed you to be there. I know. I messed up. He ran a hand through his hair. But this thing you're doing, cutting everyone off, that's not going to fix anything. It's not about fixing anything. It's about me surviving. Financially and emotionally. I gave everything I had. I don't have anything left to give. Vanessa had tears running down her face now. So what are we supposed to do? How am I supposed to feed my kids? The way everyone else does. Government assistance. Food banks. Your husband getting an actual job. I don't know, Vanessa. But it's not my responsibility anymore. We're family. It is your responsibility. No. The word came out hard and final. Family should be mutual. It should be reciprocal. I've given and given and given for 5 years, and when I needed something, just someone to show up at the airport and say congratulations, I got nothing. So no, it's not my responsibility. Not anymore. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. Then she grabbed her purse and headed for the door. You're going to regret this. When you realize what you've done to this family, you're going to feel terrible. Maybe, I said. But I'll feel terrible in Costa Rica with an ocean view. She froze. What? I'm leaving. In a week. Already booked the flight. You're running away. No. I'm moving on. There's a difference. She left without another word, the door slamming behind her hard enough to rattle the frame. Julian lingered, looking miserable. Costa Rica? He asked quietly. Yeah. Because of us? Because of me. Because I need to figure out who I am when I'm not just the guy who pays for everything. Because I almost died, and I don't want to spend whatever life I have left being angry and exhausted. He nodded slowly. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. He paused at the door. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. About all of it. I know. After he left, I sat on my couch in the silence. My apartment felt different now, lighter somehow, like the air pressure had changed. My phone had 400 plus messages. I didn't read them. The next week moved in a blur. I packed my life into 2 suitcases and 4 boxes that I'd ship later. I sold my furniture on Facebook Marketplace. Donated my clothes. Put my car up for sale, a 2019 Civic that I'd bought used, one of the few practical decisions I'd made before cancer consumed everything. My family kept trying. Mom showed up at my door twice. I didn't answer. Vanessa sent long text messages that swung between guilt-tripping and genuine-sounding apologies. Julian kept it simple. Miss you, man. Hope you find what you're looking for. Aunt Carol sent a card with a Bible verse about forgiveness. I didn't respond to any of them. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, knocked on my door 3 days before my flight. She was holding a container of fresh dumplings and a small wooden box. You're leaving, she said. Not a question. How did you know? I see you carrying boxes. Your apartment sounds empty. She handed me the dumplings and the box. For your journey. I opened the box. Inside was a small jade Buddha, smooth and cool to the touch. For luck, she said. For new beginnings. You've had a hard time. You deserve peace. I felt my eyes sting. This woman who barely knew me, who I'd only ever exchanged pleasantries with in the hallway, was showing me more kindness than my own family. Thank you, I managed. Really? Thank you. She patted my arm. Family is complicated. But sometimes the family we choose is more important than the family we're born with. Remember that. The morning of my flight, I woke up at 4 a.m. My apartment was empty except for a suitcase, a backpack, and a sleeping bag I'd used on the floor my last night. I'd turned in my keys to the landlord yesterday. This was it. I called an Uber to O'Hare. Terminal 5 again, the same place I'd stood alone a week ago. Different gate this time. Different destination. I checked my phone one last time before boarding. The family group chat had gone quiet. The last message was from Mom, sent at 11 p.m. the night before. I hope you know what you're doing. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. But don't forget that we're still your family. That doesn't change just because you're angry. I wasn't angry anymore. That was the thing she didn't understand. I'd moved past anger into something clearer. Something that felt like the first honest thing I'd done in years. I typed a response, I love you all. But I'm done being responsible for everyone's life except my own. I hope you understand eventually. If not, that's okay too. I hit send, then turned off my phone. The flight to San Jose was 5 hours. I slept through most of it, the deep dreamless sleep of someone who'd finally put down a weight they'd been carrying too long. 3 months later, I'm sitting on my balcony in Jakarta watching the sunset paint the Pacific Ocean in shades of orange and purple. I'm drinking fresh mango juice from the market. My Spanish is getting better. I've made friends, other expats, some locals who are patient with my terrible accent. I work my remote job during the mornings, finish by noon, and spend the afternoons doing whatever I want. Swimming. Reading. Taking photographs. Just existing without anyone needing anything from me. My health is improving. The last scan was perfect. Dr. Rivera does telemedicine appointments from New York, and she says I'm doing better than expected. The stress reduction probably helps. I still think about my family sometimes. It would be a lie to say I don't. But it's different now. The anger is gone. The guilt is fading. Mostly I just feel sad that it had to end this way. Mom texts occasionally. Short messages. Thinking of you. Hope you're well. I respond sometimes. Keep it light. She's working part-time now, picked up some bookkeeping clients. Dad's on disability. They're managing. It's tight, but they're managing. Vanessa's husband finally got a job. Turns out when you absolutely have to work, you find something. She doesn't text me anymore, but Julian tells me she's doing okay. The kids are fine. They qualified for the free lunch program at school, and Vanessa had to swallow her pride and apply for assistance, but they're not starving. Julian moved back home with mom and dad. He's teaching drama at a community college, adjunct, but it's something. He still sends me memes sometimes. Stupid stuff that makes me laugh. I send him pictures of the beach. I don't know if we'll ever be close again. Maybe someday. Maybe not. I'm learning to be okay with not knowing. The thing about almost dying is that it clarifies what matters. And what matters isn't making everyone else comfortable at the expense of yourself. It's not being the reliable one who never says no. It's not sacrificing everything you have because you feel guilty for having more. What matters is living. Actually living. Waking up and feeling grateful instead of drained. Having energy for your own dreams instead of funding everyone else's. Being able to say I can't without it being a betrayal. Mrs. Chen was right. The family you choose matters more than the family you're born with. I've found my family here, my neighbor Andres who teaches me to surf, the woman at the fruit stand who saves the best mangoes for me, the other expats at the weekly beach bonfire who understand what it means to start over. Tomorrow I'm going zip lining through the rainforest. Next week I'm taking a cooking class. Next month I'm planning a trip to Nicaragua just because I can. I almost died. But I didn't. And I'm not going to waste whatever time I have left feeling guilty for saving myself. The sun is setting now, sinking into the ocean like a benediction. The sky is on fire with color. Somewhere in Chicago, it's getting dark and cold. Winter is coming. People are bundled up, rushing between heated spaces, complaining about the wind off the lake. I'm here in shorts and a t-shirt, barefoot on my balcony, watching paradise happen in real time. My phone buzzes. A text from Julian, happy 3 months cancer-free, hermano. Proud of you. I smile and text back, thanks, Jules. Love you. And I mean it. I do love them. All of them, even Vanessa and her complicated anger, even mom with her expectations and guilt trips. But I love myself more now. Enough to know that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who only love you for what you can give them. The cancer taught me that I could survive impossible things. The airport taught me who my family really was. And Costa Rica is teaching me who I can be when I'm free. I'm 34 years old. I'm broke but happy. I'm alone but not lonely. I'm alive when I should be dead. And for the first time in 5 years, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The ocean keeps moving, waves rolling in like they have for millions of years and will for millions more. Constant. Reliable. Indifferent to human drama and family obligations and medical bills and guilt trips. I take another sip of mango juice. It's sweet and perfect. Tomorrow I'll wake up and do it all over again, this strange, beautiful, chosen life. And that's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything. That was 3 months ago. Now I need to tell you what happened next, because the story didn't end there. It never does it? It was a Tuesday morning in December when my carefully constructed piece started to crack. I was at my usual cafe, a little open-air place called Soda Mary Sol about 2 blocks from my apartment, when my phone rang. Unknown number, Chicago area code. I'd stopped answering calls from Chicago. But something made me pick up this time. Maybe intuition. Maybe stupidity. Marcus? The voice was shaky, older than I remembered. It's your father. My hand tightened around the phone. Dad hadn't called me in years, couldn't really, after the stroke. His speech was too difficult, the effort too frustrating. Mom always made his calls for him. Dad? Are you okay? I need. He was struggling with the words, that halting pattern I knew so well. Each syllable a mountain to climb. You. Too. Come home. My chest constricted. What's wrong? Is it Mom? Hospital. Your mother. Heart attack. The cafe sounds faded to white noise. When? Last night. I couldn't call. Vanessa just told me this morning. Vanessa knew last night and didn't tell me until Dad somehow managed to call. That detail landed like a punch. Is she stable? Don't. No. Please. Marcus. His voice cracked. Please. Come. I closed my eyes. 3 months of carefully constructed distance, and it all came crashing down with one phone call. Which hospital? Northwestern. I'll get the next flight out. I hung up and sat there, my coffee going cold in my hands. A parrot squawked in the tree above me. A motorcycle puttered past. Life in Chicago continued like nothing had changed, but everything had changed. Andres found me there 20 minutes later, still sitting frozen. Amigo, you look like you've seen a ghost. My mother had a heart attack. He sat down across from me, his weathered surfer face going serious. I'm sorry, man. When are you leaving? I need to check flights. I pulled out my phone, started searching. There's one this afternoon through Houston. Gets into O'Hare at midnight. You want me to drive you to the airport? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Marcus. He waited until I looked at him. You don't have to feel guilty about this. You know that, right? You didn't cause this. I know. But did I? Somewhere in the back of my mind, a voice whispered that stress could trigger heart attacks. That I'd added to her stress by cutting her off. That maybe if I'd handled things differently. I shut that voice down. I'd been down that road before, and it led nowhere good. The flight back felt longer than the flight away had. I spent most of it staring out the window at darkness, thinking about the last real conversation I'd had with my mother. The anger in her voice when she'd called about the rent. The accusation that I was being cruel. I'd meant what I'd said to her. But I hadn't wanted this. Northwestern Memorial at 1 a.m. was quiet in that eerie hospital way, lights too bright, sounds too sharp, everything smelling like disinfectant and fear. I knew this smell. I'd lived in it for 18 months. Coming back felt like returning to a place I'd been held prisoner. I found the cardiac unit on the 5th floor. Vanessa was in the waiting room, slumped in one of those uncomfortable plastic chairs. She looked exhausted, her hair unwashed, still wearing what might have been yesterday's clothes. She saw me and stood up. For a second, I thought she might hug me. Instead, she just stared. You came. Of course I came. She's my mother. I didn't think you would. After everything. How is she? Vanessa sank back into the chair. Stable now. She had a massive heart attack yesterday afternoon. She was at the grocery store, just collapsed in the cereal aisle. If someone hadn't been there to do CPR. She trailed off, shaking her head. They had to do emergency surgery. 2 stents. The doctor says she's lucky to be alive. I sat down next to her, leaving one chair between us. When can I see her? She's sleeping now. They've got her pretty sedated. The doctor said maybe in the morning. Vanessa rubbed her eyes. Dad's a mess. He can barely understand what's happening, and he can't communicate well enough to ask questions. Julian's with him at the house. How are you handling all this? She laughed, a bitter sound. How do you think? Mom's insurance is garbage. The deductible is $15,000. The surgery alone was over $100,000. And she can't work now, obviously, so there's no income. Dad's disability barely covers their rent. There it was. The real reason she looked so relieved to see me. Not because she'd missed me or wanted to reconcile. Because I was the solution to a financial problem. I'm not, I started. I know. She cut me off, her voice sharp. I know you're not paying for it. You've made that very clear. I'm just telling you the situation. We sat in silence for a while. A nurse walked by, shoes squeaking on the linoleum. A machine beeped steadily from one of the rooms. The sounds of people barely holding on. I'm sorry, Vanessa said finally, so quiet I almost missed it. For what? For not being at the airport. For the text about rent. For. She gestured vaguely. All of it. You were right. We were using you. I was using you. And I didn't even realize how bad it had gotten until you were gone. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to accept the apology, to let it bridge the gap between us. Another part remembered standing alone in that airport terminal, watching families reunite while mine couldn't be bothered to send a text. Things have been hard without your help, she continued. Really hard. But they needed to be, I think. David actually got a job. A real job, not just applications and interviews that go nowhere. He's working construction, 40 hours a week. He hates it, but he's doing it. Because he has to. That's good. Julian moved back home to help with Dad. He's teaching part-time and doing Dad's care the rest of the time. It's not what he wanted, but he's growing up, I guess. Taking responsibility. And you? I got a night job. Stocking shelves at Target. It's not glamorous, but it pays. Between David's income and mine, we're making it work. Barely. But we're doing it ourselves. She looked at me. You were right to cut us off. We would have kept taking forever if you hadn't. I wanted to feel vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. I'm sorry about Mom, I said. Really? Whatever else is between us, I never wanted this. I know. She knows that too, I think. She's been different since you left. Quieter. She actually admitted the other day that she took you for granted. Those were her exact words, I took Marcus for granted. I almost fell over. A doctor emerged from one of the rooms, young, tired looking, with that particular exhaustion that comes from too many consecutive shifts. He saw us and walked over. Family of Patricia Morrison? We both stood. That's us, Vanessa said. I'm her daughter. This is her son. She's doing well. Better than expected, actually. She's awake if you want to see her. Just for a few minutes, she needs rest. Room 512. My heart was hammering as we walked down the hall. I didn't know what I was going to say to her. Didn't know if I could forgive her, or if she'd even ask for forgiveness. The room was dim, machines beeping softly. Mom looked small in the hospital bed, smaller than I'd ever seen her. She'd always been this force in my life, strong-willed, opinionated, larger than life in her demands and expectations. Now she looked fragile. Human. Mortal. Her eyes were closed. We started to back out, but she must have sensed us because they fluttered open. Marcus? Her voice was rough, barely above a whisper. Hey, Mom. I moved closer to the bed. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck. A weak smile. You came all the way from Costa Rica. Of course I did. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry for everything. The airport. The way we treated you. Taking you for granted for so long. The tears spilled over, running down her temples into her hair. You almost died, and I made it about money. What kind of mother does that? I felt my own throat tighten. Mom, don't. You need to rest. No, I need to say this. While I can. She tried to reach for my hand but couldn't quite make it. I closed the distance, taking her hand in mine. It felt delicate, like bird bones. When you left, I was so angry. I thought you were being selfish and cruel. But you weren't. We were. We had bled you dry, and we never even noticed because the money just kept coming. It's okay. It's not okay. But I'm going to make it okay. However long that takes. She squeezed my hand weakly. I want you to know that we're managing without you. It's hard, but we're doing it. You don't have to worry about us anymore. You don't have to take care of everyone. You can just live your life. That's all I want for you now. To live. I couldn't speak. The words I'd needed to hear for years, and now that I had them, I didn't know what to do with them. I'm proud of you, she whispered. For surviving the cancer. For being strong enough to walk away when you needed to. For building a new life. I'm so proud of you, Marcus. That broke me. I put my head down on the edge of her bed and cried, really cried, for the first time since my diagnosis. She stroked my hair with her free hand, weak and shaky but there. It's okay, baby. It's all going to be okay. I stayed in Chicago for 2 weeks. Stayed in a cheap hotel near the hospital, visited Mom every day. Watched her get stronger, color returning to her face, her voice gaining power. The doctors were optimistic. If she made lifestyle changes, took her medications, reduced stress, she could live a long time. I met with Dad and Julian. Dad cried when he saw me, those frustrating tears that came so easily after the stroke. He couldn't say much, but he held my hand and I understood. Julian and I went for coffee, and he told me about his teaching job, about taking care of Dad, about growing up the hard way. I get it now, he said. What you were carrying. I'm just doing Dad, and it's exhausting. You were doing everyone. Vanessa and I had dinner one night. Just the two of us at a diner near her house. It was awkward at first, too many unspoken things floating between us. But slowly, We found our way back to something that felt like siblingship. Not the same as before, that was gone, burned away by everything that had happened. But something new. Something more honest. Are you going back? She asked over pie and coffee. To Costa Rica? Yeah. It's home now. She nodded. Good. You look different there. Happier. I saw the pictures you sent Julian. I am happier. I feel like myself for the first time in years. I'm glad. Really? She pushed pie around her plate. And I'm sorry we made you feel like you had to disappear to find that. On my last day in Chicago, I went to the airport again. O'Hare, Terminal 5. Stood in the same spot I'd stood 3 months earlier, watching the same parade of reunions and goodbyes. But this time was different. This time, Julian was there with me. Just my little brother, sitting beside me at the gate, not saying much. Just being there. You didn't have to come, I told him. Yeah, I did. He smiled, and for a second he looked like the kid I'd taught to ride a bike, before life got complicated. Someone should see you off this time. When they called my flight, he hugged me tight. Come back and visit sometime. Not for an emergency. Just because you want to. I will. I promise. And I meant it. Because forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's not erasing the past or pretending everything's fine. It's choosing to move forward anyway, carrying the scars but not letting them define you. The flight back to Costa Rica felt different too. Lighter. I'd faced the thing I'd been running from, and it hadn't destroyed me. My family was broken and imperfect and it hurt me deeply. But they were also trying, in their messy human way, to be better. And maybe that was enough. Not to go back to how things were. But to build something new. Something sustainable. Something that didn't require me to set myself on fire to keep everyone else warm. When I landed in San Jose and made my way back to Jaca, Andres was waiting outside my apartment with a 6-pack of Imperial and a grin. Welcome home, hermano. Home. That word had changed meaning for me. It wasn't just a place anymore. It was a feeling. The freedom to say no. The space to breathe. The permission to put myself first without guilt eating me alive. That night, I sat on my balcony watching the stars come out over the Pacific. My phone buzzed. A text from the family group chat, the one I hadn't left, had just muted. Mom, thank you for coming home. Thank you for everything. We love you. Now go live your life, red heart emoji. Vanessa, what Mom said. Miss you already. Julian, next time you visit, I'm teaching you how to make Dad's famous meatballs. He's been trying to tell me the recipe for weeks, rolling on the floor laughing emoji. I smiled and typed, deal. Love you all. And I did. I really did. But I loved myself more now. Enough to know that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is save yourself first. Enough to understand that you can forgive people without letting them consume you again. Enough to choose peace over obligation. The cancer had taught me I could survive. My family had taught me what I wouldn't accept anymore. And Costa Rica was teaching me that there's life after survival, not just existing, but actually living. On my terms. In my time. For myself. I'm 35 now. Still cancer-free. Still broke but building my savings back slowly. Still learning Spanish and surfing and existing in this strange, beautiful life I chose. My family's doing okay without me funding them. Mom's recovering. Dad's stable. Vanessa and David are working. Julian's found purpose in teaching and caregiving. They're figuring it out, the way people do when they have to. And me? I'm here. Watching the ocean. Drinking mango juice. Planning a trip to Panama next month just because I can. Living without the weight of everyone else's needs crushing my chest. Some people would say I abandoned my family. That I chose myself over them when they needed me most. Maybe in their version of the story, I'm the villain. But in my version, the one I have to live with every morning when I wake up, I'm the survivor. Not just of cancer, but of a life that was killing me in a different way. And that's enough. That's everything. That's the truth I've learned to live with. Story 2. My girlfriend said, I'm using your daughter's college fund for my girl's trip to Miami. You can save again. I responded, sounds good. Then when she withdrew it all into her account, in the middle of the night I withdrew her entire account and booked a father-daughter trip to Japan. When she went to book her trip and saw the account balance, her reaction was, I let my girlfriend steal my daughter's college fund. Yeah, you read that right. I stood there in our kitchen, watching her perfectly manicured nails tap against her phone screen as she told me about Miami, about the beaches, about the girl's trip of a lifetime, and I just nodded. Smiled, even. Said it sounded great. Because here's what nobody tells you about living with a master manipulator, sometimes the only way to win is to let them think they've already won. My name's David, I'm 42, and I've been dating Rebecca for 3 years. 3 years of slowly watching my life get repainted in her colors, my boundaries get redrawn according to her blueprints. She moved into my house 2 years ago with her sister Michelle, who apparently couldn't afford her own place. That's what Rebecca told me, anyway. Looking back now, I'm not sure Michelle ever tried. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me rewind to the moment everything changed. It was a Tuesday night, around 9:30. My daughter Emma, she's 17, senior year of high school, was upstairs doing homework. I could hear the faint sound of her playlist bleeding through her door, some indie band I couldn't name. Rebecca was sitting across from me at the kitchen table, and she had that look. You know the one. The look that says, I'm about to ask for something, and I've already decided you're going to say yes. Babe, she started, and my stomach tightened. Nothing good ever followed that particular tone. Michelle and I have been talking, and we really need this vacation. Like, really need it. I set down my coffee. Okay. What are we talking about? A weekend somewhere? Miami. 10 days. We found this amazing resort package, and, she paused, watching my face. It's $11,000. Total. For both of us. I blinked. $11,000. It's actually a steal for what we're getting. Oceanfront suite, spot treatments, the works. She reached across the table, put her hand on mine. Her skin was warm, her smile practiced. I know it's a lot, but David, I've been so stressed lately. Work has been hell, and I just need to recharge. Here's the thing, Rebecca hadn't worked in 8 months. She'd quit her job as a receptionist at a dental office because, and I quote, the energy there was toxic. Since then, she'd been figuring things out and exploring her options, which apparently meant sleeping until 11 and online shopping until 3. But I didn't say that. I said, where would we get $11,000? Her eyes flickered. Just for a second, but I caught it. Well, I was thinking. Emma's college fund. The air in the kitchen changed. Got heavier. Her college fund, I repeated slowly. Listen, I know how it sounds, but hear me out. Rebecca leaned forward, and I could smell her perfume, something floral and expensive that I'd paid for. Emma's smart. She'll get scholarships. And you can always save again, right? You're good at that. But this opportunity, this package, it's only available this week. If we don't book it now, it's gone. I stared at her. At this woman I'd let into my home, into my life, into my daughter's life. This woman who was sitting in my kitchen, using my electricity, eating food I bought, and asking me to rob my daughter's future so she could get a tan. Something cold settled in my chest. Something calculating. How much is in the fund? She asked, trying to sound casual. About $43,000, I said. Emma and I had been saving since she was born. Every birthday, every Christmas, every overtime shift I could grab. $43,000 of sacrificed date nights and skipped vacations and packed lunches. Rebecca's eyes lit up. Actually lit up. Perfect. So you can spare 11. Easy. And here's where I made my decision. Right there, in that moment, watching her smile while she planned to steal from my daughter. I smiled back. You know what? You're right. You do need a vacation. You've been under a lot of pressure. Her whole face transformed. Really? Oh my gosh, David, really? Yeah. I picked up my coffee again, keeping my voice level. You and Michelle should go. Have a blast. You're the best. She jumped up, came around the table, threw her arms around my neck. I could feel her heartbeat against my shoulder, quick and excited. I'm going to start booking right now. This is going to be amazing. Just one thing, I said. The account, it's in my name only. I'll need to transfer it to an account you can access. Oh. She pulled back, thinking. I could give you my account number? Or we could set up a joint account? Let's keep it simple. Just give me your account details, and I'll transfer it over tomorrow. She practically skipped to her purse, pulled out her phone, and rattled off her account number. I typed it into my phone, making a show of double-checking each digit. Got it, I said. You won't regret this, she said, already texting Michelle. I'm going to make it up to you. Promise. I watched her leave the kitchen, watched her disappear into the living room where I could hear her squealing on the phone with her sister. Then I sat there, hands wrapped around my coffee mug, and I planned. Because here's what Rebecca didn't know, I'm an accountant. I've spent 20 years managing money, understanding money, predicting what people will do with money. And I knew exactly what she was going to do. She was going to take it all. Not just the 11,000. All 43. Because people like Rebecca, people who could casually ask to steal from a child's future, they don't do things halfway. They don't show restraint. They take and take until there's nothing left to take. So I waited. The next morning, I woke up at 5:30 like always. Made coffee. Checked my phone. And there it was, a notification from my bank. Withdrawal, $43,000. Transferred to external account. She'd done it. While I was sleeping, while Emma was sleeping, Rebecca had taken everything. I sat there in the dark kitchen, steam rising from my coffee, and I felt nothing. No surprise. No anger. Just a cold, settled certainty. I opened my banking app and navigated to Rebecca's account. See, when she'd given me her account number, she'd also inadvertently given me access to something else. We used the same bank. And when you transfer money between accounts at the same bank, sometimes the system asks if you want to save that account for future transfers. Make things easier. I'd clicked yes. And Rebecca, in her excitement, in her greed, had made one crucial mistake. She'd used her savings account for the transfer. Not her checking account. Her savings account, where she'd been stashing money for the past 3 years. Money from her previous job. Money from her tax returns. Money from who knows where. $87,000. I stared at that number for a long time. Then I made a transfer. Every single penny. $87,000, moved into my secondary account. The one Rebecca didn't know about. The one I'd kept separate for emergencies. This qualified. But I wasn't done. Because this wasn't just about the money. This was about Emma. About showing her that someone would always fight for her. That her future mattered. I opened a travel website and started searching. Flights to Japan. Hotels in Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka. Emma had been talking about Japan since she was 12, ever since she'd started learning Japanese in school. She had folders full of pictures, notebooks full of phrases, dreams full of temples and cherry blossoms and bullet trains. 2 hours later, I'd booked everything. 3 weeks in Japan. First-class flights. Nice hotels, but not wasteful. I'm still an accountant at heart. Cultural experiences. Cooking classes. A traditional tea ceremony. Everything Emma had ever mentioned wanting to do. Total cost, $28,000. I left the rest untouched. $59,000, sitting in my secondary account. Safe. Then I transferred the $43,000 back into Emma's college fund. Every penny, right where it belonged. I made breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, bacon. Emma came down at 6:45, backpack already on, ready for school. "Morning, Dad," she said, grabbing a piece of toast. "Morning, sweetheart." I paused, then added, "How would you feel about missing 3 weeks of school?" She stopped mid-bite. "What?" "I'm serious. How important are the next 3 weeks?" "I mean, we're mostly reviewing for finals right now." "Why?" I pulled out my phone, showed her the flight confirmation. "Because we're going to Japan." The piece of toast fell from her hand. Dad, what, is this real?" "Completely real. We leave in 2 weeks." She stared at the screen, at the flight times, at the hotel names. Her eyes started watering. "But how? The money? Don't worry about the money. This is happening." She threw her arms around me, and I held my daughter while she cried happy tears into my shoulder, and I thought about Rebecca sleeping upstairs, dreaming about Miami, having no idea that her world was about to implode. Emma left for school, still dazed, still crying a little. I cleaned up breakfast. And then I waited. Rebecca came down around 10:30, wearing one of those expensive athleisure outfits that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. She was on her phone, hadn't even looked at me yet. "Morning," I said. She poured herself coffee, still scrolling. "I'm looking at excursions. There's this boat party that looks amazing, but it's, like, $800 per person. Think we should." She stopped. Stared at her phone. Tapped the screen. Tapped it again. "What the heck?" I sipped my coffee. Said nothing. "David." Her voice had changed. Sharp now. Dangerous. "David, what did you do?" "What do you mean?" She spun her phone around, shoved it in my face. Her banking app was open, showing her account balance. $0. Where's my money? I set down my coffee very carefully. "I moved it." "You moved," her face was turning red. "You moved $87,000 out of my account?" "Technically, you moved $43,000 out of Emma's account first. I just reciprocated. That was for the vacation. You said I could have it." "I said you could have 11,000. You took 43. So I figured we were playing by new rules." Michelle appeared in the doorway, looking confused. "What's going on?" "He stole my money." Rebecca's voice was climbing toward a shriek. "He stole everything." "I moved it," I corrected calmly. "Same way you moved Emma's college fund. Same way you moved it at 3 in the morning, thinking I wouldn't notice." Rebecca's mouth opened. Closed. She hadn't expected me to know the timing. "Where is it?" she demanded. "Give it back right now, or I swear to, or you'll what?" I stood up, and something in my voice made her step back. "Call the police? Explain how you stole $43,000 from a minor's college fund? Explain how you've been living rent-free in my house for 2 years?" Explain how you quit your job and have been spending my money while contributing nothing? That's not, we're partners. Partners don't steal from each other's children. Michelle was backing away, probably sensing that this was about to get worse. Smart woman. I put your money back, I continued. Emma's college fund is intact. But your money? I invested it. Invested? In a father-daughter trip to Japan. 3 weeks. We leave in 2 weeks. The color drained from Rebecca's face. You can't do that. Already done. Non-refundable. I'll sue you. With what money? Besides, good luck finding a lawyer who'll take a case about stolen money that you stole first. I picked up my coffee mug, moved toward the sink. Oh, and I need you and Michelle out of my house by the end of the week. This is insane. Rebecca's voice cracked. You can't just throw us out. Actually, I can. You're not on the lease. You're not on the mortgage. You're a guest who's outstayed her welcome. After everything I've done for you? What exactly have you done for me, Rebecca? I turned to face her fully. You don't work. You don't clean. You criticized my daughter's weight until she stopped eating dinner with us. You spend my money and act like you're doing me a favor by being here. So please, enlighten me. What have you done? She stared at me, her mouth working but no sounds coming out. Behind her, Michelle had disappeared entirely. Probably already packing. End of the week, I repeated. Pack your things. Leave your key on the counter. You'll regret this, Rebecca hissed. You think you're so smart, but you just ruined the best thing that ever happened to you. I almost laughed. The best thing that ever happened to me is sleeping in her childhood bedroom upstairs, dreaming about college. And you tried to take that from her. So no, Rebecca. I don't think I'll regret this at all. She left. Stormed out of the kitchen, up the stairs, and I heard the bedroom door slam hard enough to rattle the walls. I stood there in the silence, hands shaking slightly, adrenaline, finally catching up, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Free. The next few days were tense. Rebecca and Michelle moved through the house like ghosts, packing boxes, making calls, shooting me looks that could have curdled milk. Rebecca tried a few more tactics: tears, apologies, promises to change, threats to destroy my reputation. I ignored all of it. Emma came home that first day, saw the boxes, and looked at me with wide eyes. They're leaving, I said simply. Because of the trip? Because of a lot of things. But yeah, the trip was the final straw. She nodded slowly. Dad. Did I cause? No. I put my hands on her shoulders. Emma, listen to me. You caused nothing. Rebecca made her choices. I made mine. And mine was to choose you. Always you. Understand? She hugged me tight, and I realized she'd gotten taller. When had that happened? When had my little girl started looking like a young woman? I love you, Dad, she whispered. I love you too, sweetheart. On Thursday, I came home from work to find the house empty except for Emma. Rebecca and Michelle were gone. No note. No goodbye. Just empty closets and a single key on the kitchen counter. Emma and I ordered pizza that night. Ate it in the living room, watching some cooking show she liked. The house felt bigger. Quieter. Better. Hey Dad? She said during a commercial break. Yeah? Thank you. For the trip. For everything. You don't have to thank me, Em. I do, though. She set down her pizza slice, turned to face me fully. I know what she was doing. How she treated you. How she treated me. And I know you stayed because you thought. I don't know, maybe that I needed a mom figure or something. My throat tightened. Emma. But I don't. I never did. I just needed you. And you've always been enough. I pulled her into a hug, this brilliant, kind, perfect daughter of mine, and I wondered how I'd gotten so lucky. The 2 weeks before the trip passed in a blur. Emma studied Japanese phrases every night. I made lists, checked documents, confirmed reservations. We bought travel gear, practiced using chopsticks. Emma was already better than me, and watched documentaries about Japanese culture. Work knew I was taking time off. My boss, Karen, gave me a knowing look when I submitted the request. Rebecca finally out? She asked. I blinked. How did you? David, everyone knew. We just didn't know how to tell you. She smiled. Have a great trip. You both deserve it. The morning we left, Emma could barely sit still on the drive to the airport. She was wearing a hoodie she'd bought specially for the trip, covered in Japanese characters she'd carefully researched to make sure they actually said what the label claimed. What if I forget all my Japanese? She worried as we checked our bags. Then we'll point and smile a lot. It'll be fine. Security was smooth. The gate area was crowded but organized. And then we were boarding, walking down the jet bridge, finding our seats in first class. Emma's eyes went wide as saucers when she realized we weren't turning left. Dad, this is... Excessive? I grinned. Maybe. But we're going to be on this plane for 13 hours. Might as well be comfortable. She settled into her seat, running her hands over the leather armrests, the personal screen, the little amenity kit the flight attendant handed her. This is the best day of my life, she whispered. It's about to get better, I promised. The flight was long but smooth. Emma watched Japanese films without subtitles, testing her comprehension. I read a thriller novel I'd been meaning to get to for months. We talked. Really talked, about her college plans, her fears, her dreams. About her mother, my ex-wife, who'd left when Emma was 3. About how we'd built this life together, just the two of us, and how that was enough. More than enough. We landed in Tokyo at sunset. The city sprawled beneath us, a sea of lights and buildings and possibility. Emma pressed her face to the window, and I saw tears on her cheeks. You okay? I asked. I'm just really happy, she said. We made it through customs, found our hotel, a beautiful place in Shibuya with a view of the crossing, and collapsed into our respective beds. The next 3 weeks were magic. We visited temples in Kyoto, fed deer in Nara, ate our weight in ramen and sushi in yakitori. Emma spoke Japanese to shopkeepers and waiters, her face glowing every time someone responded and understood. We took a cooking class and learned to make sushi. Mine looked like disasters, hers looked professional. We stayed in a traditional ryokan, slept on futon beds, bathed in an onsen. We rode the bullet train, faces pressed to the windows, watching Japan blur past at 200 miles per hour. We got lost in Tokyo's backstreets and found tiny bars where the owners didn't speak English but welcomed us anyway. We watched the sunrise from Mount Fuji, shivering and exhausted and absolutely awed. Emma took thousands of photos. I took photos of her taking photos. We sent postcards to her friends, to my boss, to Emma's favorite teacher. We didn't send any to Rebecca. On our last night in Tokyo, we went to a rooftop restaurant. The city glittered below us, endless and beautiful. Emma ordered in Japanese, not perfectly, but well enough that the waiter smiled and responded in kind. Dad, she said once the waiter left. I've been thinking about what I want to study. In college. Yeah? International relations. Maybe with a focus on Japan. I want to come back here. Maybe even work here someday. I felt my chest expand with pride. That sounds perfect, Em. I know the college fund won't cover everything if I go to one of the better programs. They're expensive. But I was thinking I could work, get loans maybe. Emma. I set down my chopsticks. The college fund is $43,000. That hasn't changed. I know, but I also have another $59,000 set aside. From Rebecca's account. Her eyes went wide. The money you took, you kept it? Most of it. The rest went to this trip. But that $59,000? It's yours. For college. For whatever you need. Dad, she was crying again. Happy tears, the kind that made her nose scrunch up the way it had since she was little. That's over $100,000, $102,000, to be exact. Enough for a very good education. Enough for you to study exactly what you want, where you want. She got up, came around the table, hugged me so hard I thought my ribs might crack. You're the best father in the entire world. I don't know about that, I said into her hair. But I'm trying. We flew home the next day. Emma slept most of the flight, exhausted and happy. I watched her sleep and thought about Rebecca, about Michelle, about the house I'd reclaimed. My phone had been off for 3 weeks. I turned it on as we landed, and it immediately exploded with notifications. Texts from Rebecca. Dozens of them. Starting angry, then desperate, then angry again. Threats mixed with apologies mixed with demands. I deleted them all without reading most of them. Voicemails from Michelle. I didn't listen to any of them. And one email from Rebecca's lawyer. I opened it, expecting threats. Instead, I found something interesting. The lawyer was very carefully dancing around the actual events, asking for clarification regarding certain financial transactions and suggesting mediation might be beneficial for all parties. In other words, Rebecca had talked to a lawyer and been told she didn't have a case. I deleted the email. Emma and I took a taxi home. The house looked the same from the outside, but when we walked in, it felt different. Lighter. The air moved differently without Rebecca's energy poisoning it. Home sweet home, Emma said, dropping her bag by the door. Home sweet home, I echoed. That night, after Emma had gone to bed, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea and thought about everything. About the college fund, the trip, the future. About Rebecca and her empty threats and her empty life. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You think you won, but you didn't. I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I typed back, feel free. I'm not afraid of the truth. Are you? No response. I blocked the number and finished my tea. The next morning, I woke up to Emma making breakfast. Pancakes, slightly burned, but the gesture was perfect. "Morning, Dad," she said, grinning. "Thought I'd practice my cooking skills." "They're perfect," I said, and meant it. We ate together, talking about her plans to show her friends all her photos, about getting back to school, about college applications that would be due soon. "Hey Dad?" Emma said, syrup on her chin. "I was thinking. Maybe we should make Japan a tradition. Every few years, we could go back. See new places." "I'd like that," I said. "I'd like that a lot." Later that week, I got an email from the bank. Rebecca had tried to file a fraud claim, saying her money had been stolen. The bank had investigated, which took about 5 minutes, and found that the transfer had been authorized from her own device, from her own IP address, at a time when she was provably at my house. Claim denied. I also got a call from a mutual friend, someone who'd been friends with both Rebecca and me. She wanted to hear my side of the story. I told her the truth. All of it. "Wow," she said when I finished. "I mean, I knew Rebecca could be difficult. But I didn't realize. Most people didn't," I said. "She was good at hiding it. Is Emma okay?" "Emma's great. Better than great, actually." "Good. That's what matters." A pause. "For what it's worth, David, I think you did the right thing." "Thanks. That means a lot." Word spread, the way it does. I heard through the grapevine that Rebecca had tried to tell her version of events, where I was the villain, where she was the victim, but it hadn't taken. Too many people had seen how she'd treated Emma. Too many people had watched her live off me while contributing nothing. The truth, it turned out, was its own defense. Months passed. Emma threw herself into her college applications, writing essays about cultural exchange and global citizenship. She got into every school she applied to, including her top choice, a program in international relations with a study abroad component in Japan. The day the acceptance letter came, we celebrated. Just the two of us, Chinese takeout and ice cream, the way we always had. "I can't believe it's really happening," Emma said, reading the letter for the 10th time. "Believe it," I said. "You earned it." "We earned it," she corrected. "I wouldn't be here without you." "And I wouldn't be here without you," I said. "So I guess we're even." She smiled, that brilliant smile that made everything worth it. I never heard from Rebecca again. Michelle sent a brief email months later, apologizing for her part in everything. I didn't respond. Some doors, once closed, should stay that way. Emma graduated high school with honors. We took a trip that summer, not Japan this time, but a road trip through national parks. She drove most of the way, her new license still fresh, and I sat in the passenger seat, marveling at this capable, confident person she'd become. When we dropped her off at college in the fall, I helped carry boxes up to her dorm room. Her roommate seemed nice. The campus was beautiful. Everything was perfect. "You going to be okay?" I asked as we said goodbye. "I'm going to be great," she said. "Are you going to be okay?" "Yeah," I said, surprised to find it was true. "Yeah, I really am." She hugged me tight. "Thank you, Dad. For everything. For choosing me." "Always," I whispered. "Always you." I drove home alone, the car quiet, the house waiting. But I wasn't lonely. I was free. And in my wallet, tucked behind my license, was a photo from Japan. Emma and me, standing in front of a temple in Kyoto, both of us squinting against the sun, both of us smiling. Both of us exactly where we were meant to be. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled things with Rebecca. If I should have been more mature, more communicative, more willing to work things out. And I tell them the truth, no. Because some people don't deserve second chances. Some people show you exactly who they are, and the only mistake is not believing them the first time. Rebecca showed me who she was when she tried to steal from my daughter. And I showed her who I was when I stopped her. The money Rebecca took? It changed her life, just not the way she expected. It didn't buy her Miami beaches and spa treatments. It bought Emma an education. A future. A chance to chase her dreams halfway around the world. And me? I got something I hadn't had in 3 years. I got my home back. I got my peace back. I got my daughter back, not that she'd ever really left, but now she knew, really knew, that I would always choose her. Always fight for her. Always protect her. That's worth more than any amount of money. The last I heard, Rebecca was living with Michelle in a small apartment across town. Working part-time at a retail store. Complaining on social media about how life wasn't fair, how good people always finish last. I don't check her social media anymore. Don't think about her much at all. Because here's the thing about revenge, the best kind isn't about making someone suffer. It's about building something better. It's about taking what they tried to destroy and making it stronger. Rebecca tried to steal Emma's future. Instead, she funded it. And every time Emma sends me a photo from college, her at a study session, her at a club meeting, her practicing Japanese with native speakers, I think about that moment in the kitchen. The moment I decided to let Rebecca think she'd won. Because in the end, she gave me exactly what I needed, a reason to cut her out completely, and the means to give Emma everything she deserved. Sometimes the best move is the one your opponent never sees coming. Sometimes the best revenge is living well. And sometimes, when someone tries to take everything from you, the only thing to do is let them try, and then show them what you're really capable of. Emma comes home for holidays now. She's thriving. Learning. Growing. She's already planning another trip to Japan for next summer, this time with friends she's made in her program. And me? I'm good. Really good. I've started dating again, slowly, carefully, with much better judgment than before. I've reconnected with old friends. I've turned Emma's old room into a home office. Life is quiet. Simple. Mine. The college fund sits there, still growing. Emma's careful with it, scholarships covering most of her expenses. The money I took from Rebecca, what's left of it, will be there for graduate school if she wants it. Or for a down payment on her first home. Or for whatever she needs. Because that's what parents do. We protect. We provide. We prepare our children for the future, even when people try to steal that future away. Rebecca taught me something valuable, even if she didn't mean to. Never underestimate someone who has something real to protect. She had a vacation to gain. I had a daughter to save. And in the end, there was never any contest about who would win. So yeah, I let my girlfriend steal my daughter's college fund. And then I stole it back, along with everything else she had. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because Emma's sitting in a college classroom right now, learning about international policy and global economics and the Japanese language she loves so much. She's making friends and having experiences and building a future. And none of that would have happened if I'd let Rebecca get away with it. Sometimes being a parent means making hard choices. Sometimes it means being ruthless. Sometimes it means looking at someone you thought you loved and realizing they're a threat to the person who matters most. I don't regret a single thing. Except maybe introducing Rebecca to Emma in the first place. But even that mistake, led to something good. Because it showed Emma what I'd do for her. How far I'd go. How much she mattered. And in the end, isn't that what kids need to know? That someone will always fight for them? That they're worth fighting for? Emma knows that now. And Rebecca knows it too. Funny how things work out. But I need to tell you about what happened 6 months after Emma started college. Because that's when Rebecca made her final move, and that's when I realized this whole thing was far from over. I was at work, middle of a budget meeting, when my phone started buzzing. Once. Twice. 3 times. I ignored it. Karen was mid-presentation about Q4 projections, but then it kept going. 4. 5. 6 calls. I excused myself, stepped into the hallway, and saw Emma's name on the screen. Em? What's wrong? Dad. Her voice was shaking. Dad, Rebecca showed up at my dorm. My blood went cold. What? She was waiting outside my building when I came back from class. She tried to talk to me, said she needed to explain things, that you'd poison me against her. Emma's words were tumbling out fast, scared. I told her to leave, but she wouldn't. She kept following me, saying she deserved a chance to tell her side of the story. Where are you now? In my room. My roommate's here. Campus security escorted Rebecca off the property, but Dad, she knew where I lived. She knew my schedule. How long has she been watching me? I was already grabbing my coat, heading for the elevator. I'm coming up there. Right now. Don't go anywhere alone, understand? Stay with people. Okay. A pause. Dad, I'm scared. I know, sweetheart. But you're safe. Security knows about her now. I'll be there in 2 hours. I made it in 90 minutes, breaking every speed limit between home and Emma's campus. She met me in the lobby of her dorm, and the second I saw her face, pale, eyes red from crying, something in me snapped. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was harassment. This was a grown woman terrorizing my daughter because she couldn't accept the consequences of her own actions. We went to campus security first. Filed a formal report. They pulled up the footage, showed me Rebecca lurking outside Emma's building, following her across the quad. The security officer, a middle-aged woman named Sarah, looked at the footage and then at Emma with professional concern. This isn't her first time here, Sarah said. Emma's head snapped up. What? We've seen her on campus twice before this week. Different times, different locations. Always near your building or your classrooms. Sarah turned to me. We can ban her from campus, issue a no trespass order. But if she keeps showing up, you might want to consider a restraining order. Do it, I said immediately. All of it. We spent the next 3 hours filing paperwork, giving statements, watching more security footage that showed Rebecca's escalating behavior. It wasn't just stalking, it was obsession. She'd been coming to campus for weeks, apparently. Watching Emma. Learning her routine. Why didn't security stop her before? I asked. Sarah looked uncomfortable. She's good at blending in. Looks like a parent, acts like she belongs. And technically, campus is open to the public during the day. We can't stop everyone who walks through. But you can stop her now, I said. It wasn't a question. Yes. Absolutely. That night, Emma and I sat in a diner off campus, both of us picking at food we didn't want. She was quiet, processing. I was furious, planning. I thought it was over, Emma finally said. After you kicked her out, after the trip, after everything. I thought she'd just move on. People like Rebecca don't move on, I said. They double down. They blame everyone else for their problems. What if she doesn't stop? What if a ban doesn't work? I reached across the table, took her hand. Then we get a restraining order. And if that doesn't work, we get the police involved. And we keep escalating until she gets the message. I don't want to live like this, Emma whispered. Looking over my shoulder all the time. You won't have to. I promise. But promises are easier to make than keep. Over the next 2 weeks, Rebecca violated the campus ban 3 times. Each time, security caught her on camera. Each time, she was escorted off the property. And each time, she became more erratic, more desperate. She started calling me again. Late at night, early in the morning, middle of the day. I blocked her number, so she got new phones. Burner phones, probably. The messages were all variations of the same theme. I'd ruined her life. I'd turned Emma against her. I owed her. She deserved better. Never once did she acknowledge what she'd done. Never once did she take responsibility. I saved every message. Documented every call. Built a case. Then came the breaking point. Emma called me at 2 in the morning on a Tuesday. I was already awake, I hadn't been sleeping well since this all started, but the sound of her voice made my heart stop. She's outside my building. Right now. She's just standing there, staring up at my window. I was out of bed before she finished the sentence. Call campus security. Right now. And stay away from the windows. I already called them. They're on their way. But Dad, she's just standing there. Not moving. Not doing anything. Just staring. I'm coming. Lock your door. Don't open it for anyone except security. I threw on clothes, grabbed my keys, and drove to Emma's campus for the second time in 2 weeks. I called the police on the way, told them everything. They said they'd meet me there. When I arrived, the scene was surreal. Police cars, campus security vehicles, lights flashing. And Rebecca, handcuffed, being loaded into the back of a police car. She saw me approaching and started screaming. This is your fault. You did this. You took everything from me. I didn't respond. Didn't even look at her. I went straight to Emma's building, where she was waiting in the lobby with Sarah and 2 police officers. She's been charged with criminal trespass and stalking, one of the officers told me. We're recommending you file for a restraining order immediately. I will. Emma was shaking. I held her while she cried, while the adrenaline wore off, while the reality of what had just happened settled in. Why won't she just leave us alone? Emma asked. I didn't have a good answer. Still don't. The restraining order was granted 3 days later. Rebecca was ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from Emma, from me, from our home, from Emma's campus. Any violation would result in immediate arrest. For a while, it worked. The calls stopped. The lurking stopped. Life started to feel normal again. Emma threw herself into her studies with renewed focus. She joined a Japanese culture club, started tutoring other students in the language, even began planning a summer internship in Tokyo. She was thriving, despite everything. And I started to breathe again. But then I got a letter. Not from Rebecca, she was too smart for that now. From her lawyer. A different one this time, more aggressive. They were suing me for emotional distress and financial damages. Claiming that I'd stolen Rebecca's money, ruined her reputation, caused her to lose job opportunities. The amount they were asking for? $200,000. I sat in my kitchen reading this letter, and I started laughing. Actually laughing. Because the audacity of it was almost impressive. I called my own lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia who'd helped me with the restraining order. They don't have a case, she said after reading the letter. This is harassment, plain and simple. They're hoping you'll settle just to make it go away. I'm not settling. Good. Because we're going to countersue. For the harassment, the stalking, the emotional distress she caused Emma. Let's see how Rebecca likes being on the receiving end. The legal battle took 6 months. 6 months of depositions and filings and evidence gathering. But we had everything, Bank records showing Rebecca's theft, security footage showing her stalking, police reports documenting her harassment. Rebecca's lawyer tried to paint her as the victim, but the evidence was overwhelming. The case was dismissed. Not just dismissed, thrown out with prejudice, meaning Rebecca couldn't refile. And the judge ordered her to pay my legal fees. $23,000. Money she didn't have. Patricia called me after the ruling. Rebecca's lawyer just contacted me. She wants to settle the fee payment. Offering a payment plan. Tell her no, I said. David, tell her no. She tried to destroy my daughter's future. She stalked her. Terrorized her. Made her afraid in her own dorm room. So no, I'm not making this easy. She pays in full, or we garnish her wages. Her choice. There was a pause. Then, understood. It took Rebecca 9 months to pay off the legal fees. I know because I got a notification every time a payment came through. Small amounts at first, 100 here, 200 there. Then larger chunks, probably from her working multiple jobs or borrowing from family. I didn't feel good about it. But I didn't feel bad either. Emma heard about the lawsuit, about the outcome. We were on the phone, she was between classes, when I told her. So it's really over? She asked. It's really over. How do you feel? I thought about it. Tired. Relieved. Ready to move on. Me too. A pause. Dad? Thank you. For fighting. For not giving up. You never have to thank me for that. I know. But I want to. That summer, Emma got the internship in Tokyo. 3 months working for an international nonprofit, using her Japanese skills, building her resume. She was nervous but excited. I helped her pack, drove her to the airport, hugged her goodbye. You sure you're going to be okay without me? She teased. I survived before you went to college. I'll survive this. That's not very convincing, Dad. I laughed. I'll be fine. Go have an amazing summer. Send pictures, she did. Hundreds of them. Emma at work, Emma exploring Tokyo, Emma with new friends from around the world. Every photo showed her smiling, confident, free. Everything Rebecca had tried to take from her, she had anyway. Better, even. Because Emma was stronger now. She'd faced down an adult bully and come out the other side. She knew what she was capable of. Knew what she deserved. And she knew I'd always have her back. I spent that summer working on the house, finally making changes I'd been putting off for years. Repainted the living room. Replaced the old deck. Turned the guest room into a proper home gym. Made the space mine again. Friends started asking if I was dating. I deflected, made jokes. But the truth was, I wasn't ready. Maybe wouldn't be for a while. Rebecca had done a number on my ability to trust. Made me second-guess my judgment. Wonder what I'd missed, what red flags I'd ignored. But I was working on it. Therapy helped. Time helped more. Emma came back from Tokyo glowing. Confident. Full of stories about her internship, her travels, the people she'd met. She'd grown up even more, if that was possible. I want to go back after graduation, she told me over dinner on her first night home. Maybe work there for a few years. Really immerse myself in the culture. That sounds perfect, I said, meaning it. You'd be okay with that? Me being that far away? Emma, you could move to Mars and I'd be okay with it, as long as you were happy. She smiled. Mars might be a bit much. But Tokyo? I think I could do Tokyo. Then do it. Chase that dream. Her junior year started, and life settled into a rhythm. Emma and I talked regularly, video calls, texts, the occasional care package I'd send filled with her favorite snacks. She was busy with classes, with clubs, with planning for her future. And I was. Content. Maybe even happy. The house felt like home again. Work was good. I'd started running, joining a local group that met twice a week. Made some new friends. Reconnected with old ones. Life was simple. Quiet. Mine. Then, one day in October, I got a message on social media. From Michelle. I almost deleted it without reading. But curiosity won. David, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to reach out because I think you deserve to know, Rebecca is getting help. She's in therapy, working on her issues. She asked me to tell you that she's sorry. For everything. She knows she can't undo what she did, but she wanted you to know that she's trying to be better. That's all. I hope Emma is thriving. Michelle. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to feel something. Relief, maybe. Or vindication. But mostly I just felt nothing. Rebecca's apology, filtered through her sister, years too late. It didn't change anything. Didn't fix anything. Didn't erase the fear in Emma's voice when she called about Rebecca stalking her. I typed back, thank you for letting me know. I hope Rebecca finds what she's looking for. But I'd appreciate no further contact. Michelle responded immediately. Understood. Take care. And that was it. The final word from that chapter of my life. I told Emma about the message during our next call. How do you feel about it? She asked. I don't, really. She hurt you. Scared you. An apology doesn't fix that. No, Emma agreed. But maybe it's a start. For her, I mean. Not for us. You're more generous than I am. I learned from the best, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Emma graduated college with honors. Double major in international relations and Japanese studies. Job offers from 3 different organizations, all impressive, all exciting. She chose the one in Tokyo. Of course she did. I flew out for her graduation, sat in the crowd beaming as she walked across that stage. Watched her celebrate with friends I'd heard about but never met. Saw the woman she'd become, strong, kind, brilliant. At dinner that night, just the 2 of us, she raised her glass. To you, Dad. For everything. To you, I corrected. For being exactly who you are. We can both be right. We clinked glasses, and I thought about that moment in the kitchen years ago. When Rebecca had asked for Emma's college fund. When I'd made my choice. This moment right here, Emma glowing with pride and possibility, this was why I'd done it. Not revenge. Not payback. This. I'm proud of you, I said. In case I don't say it enough. You say it plenty. She paused. I'm proud of you too, you know. For how you handled everything. For choosing me. Easiest choice I ever made. She moved to Tokyo 2 months later. I helped her pack, again, and drove her to the airport, again. But this time felt different. Final, somehow. The end of one chapter and the beginning of another. You'll visit, right? She asked at the gate. Try and stop me. Love you, Dad. Love you too, sweetheart. I watched her walk through security, watched until I couldn't see her anymore. Then I drove home to my quiet house and realized something. I'd done it. We'd done it. Despite Rebecca. Despite the theft, the stalking, the legal battles. Despite everything. Emma was living her dream. And I'd protected that dream when it mattered most. The college fund that Rebecca tried to steal? It had paid for 4 years of education, summer programs, study abroad experiences. Every penny, used exactly as intended. The money I'd taken from Rebecca? It had funded the Japan trip that changed Emma's life, set her on this path. And the rest had covered the legal fees when Rebecca came after us again. Poetic justice, maybe. Or just justice, period. I still live in the same house. Emma visits twice a year, sometimes more. We video call every Sunday. She sends pictures of her life in Tokyo, her apartment, her office, the shrines she visits on weekends. She's happy. Thriving. Exactly where she's meant to be. And me? I'm good too. Really good. I started dating again last year, taking it slow, being careful. Met someone nice, someone who respects boundaries and understands that Emma comes first. Always. Sometimes I think about Rebecca. Wonder if therapy helped. If she ever really understood what she'd done. If she ever took real responsibility instead of just saying the words through her sister. But mostly, I don't think about her at all. Because that's the real victory, isn't it? Not the money I took back. Not the legal battles I won. But the fact that Rebecca is just a story now. A cautionary tale. A chapter that's closed. Emma asked me once, a year or so ago, if I regretted the way I'd handled things. If I wished I'd done it differently. I wish I'd never let her move in, I said honestly. I wish I'd seen who she really was sooner. But the way I handled it when I finally did? No. No regrets. Not even the dramatic middle of the night money transfer? I laughed. Especially not that. Because here's the truth, some people only understand consequences when they hit hard. Rebecca needed to lose everything to understand what she'd tried to take. And even then, I'm not sure she got it. But Emma got it. She understood that someone would fight for her. That her future mattered. That she was worth protecting. And in the end, that's all that matters. The college fund is empty now. Used exactly as intended. Emma's financially independent, working a job she loves, building a life she's proud of. And I'm here, in this house we made into a home, knowing I did right by my daughter. Rebecca tried to steal Emma's future. Instead, she funded it. And that, more than any revenge I could have planned, is the perfect ending to this story. Funny how things work out. Story 3. My fiancé declared, I'm spending Christmas with my ex's family. They invited me and I already said yes. I responded, enjoy. Then I changed our couple's New Year's Eve trip to Paris to a solo reservation. When she realized she wasn't on the flight she'd been bragging about, she lost it. Look, I'm not the kind of guy who makes impulsive decisions. I'm an architect, I plan things down to the millimeter, I measure twice and cut once, and I don't do drama. So when I tell you that I cancelled my fiancée's ticket to Paris 3 days before New Year's Eve, you need to understand that it wasn't some knee-jerk reaction. It was calculated. Deliberate. And honestly, it felt like the first honest thing I'd done in months. But let me back up, because this story doesn't start with Paris. It starts with Christmas. Or more specifically, it starts with Lauren casually dropping a bomb over breakfast like she was commenting on the weather. We were sitting at our kitchen island, the one I'd designed myself when we moved into this condo 2 years ago. Morning light was streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, catching the steam rising from her cappuccino. I was scrolling through project emails on my tablet, half listening as she talked about holiday plans. We'd already agreed to spend Christmas with my parents in Vermont. My mom had been planning the menu for weeks, asking Lauren about dietary preferences, the whole thing. Then Lauren said, "So I've been meaning to tell you, I'm actually going to spend Christmas with the Hendersons this year." I looked up. The Hendersons? Yeah. She wasn't even looking at me. She was doing that thing where she studies her nails like they contain the secrets of the universe. They invited me a few weeks ago, and I already said yes. The Hendersons. As in, her ex-boyfriend Derek's family. The same Derek she'd dated for 3 years before we met. The same Derek who, according to Lauren, was basically a brother to her now and completely platonic. We're just friends. I set down my tablet. You're spending Christmas with your ex's family. With the Hendersons, she corrected, as if the distinction mattered. Derek's mom specifically asked me to come. They've always treated me like family, and it would be weird to just cut them off completely. My coffee suddenly tasted like acid. We have plans. With my family. My mom's been. I know, and I feel bad about that. She finally looked at me, and her expression was this practiced mix of apologetic and resolute. But I already committed. And honestly, your mom will understand. She's very understanding. The thing about Lauren is that she's brilliant at making her decisions sound reasonable. She works in marketing, and she knows exactly how to frame things so that disagreeing makes you look like the unreasonable one. It's a gift, really. A terrible, manipulative gift. When exactly did you plan on telling me? I kept my voice level. Or were you just going to disappear on Christmas Eve? Don't be dramatic, Marcus. She stood up, smoothing down her silk blouse. I'm telling you now. And it's not like you can't still go to Vermont. This doesn't have to affect your plans. It affects our plans, Lauren. We made these plans together. She sighed, like I was being difficult. Look, the Hendersons are important to me. I've known them since I was 23. Derek's little sister just had a baby, and I want to be there for that. It's one Christmas. And Derek will be there. Obviously Derek will be there. It's his family. She grabbed her bag from the counter. But that's not what this is about. I'm going because I was invited and because I want to maintain those relationships. You're being jealous for no reason. Then she kissed me on the cheek, actually kissed me on the cheek like we were some couple in a sitcom having a mild disagreement about wallpaper, and left for work. I sat there for probably 20 minutes, staring at my cooling coffee. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, exactly. From something worse, that creeping realization that I'd just been bulldozed and somehow made to feel guilty about it. Here's what I didn't say to Lauren that morning. 6 months ago, I'd found text messages between her and Derek. Nothing explicitly inappropriate, but enough to make my stomach clench. Inside jokes. Late-night conversations. Him asking when he'd get to see her again. Her sending him photos from her work events with captions like "Wish you were here to make this less boring." When I'd confronted her about it, she'd cried. Actually cried. Said I was being controlling and paranoid, that Derek was one of her oldest friends, that I needed to trust her. She'd turned it around so completely that I'd ended up apologizing. Apologizing for being uncomfortable with my fiancée's intimate emotional relationship with her ex-boyfriend. After that, I'd tried to be cool about it. Tried to be the mature, secure guy who doesn't get threatened by his partner's past. But there were signs. Little things. How she'd angle her phone away when texting. How she'd mention Derek in passing, testing my reaction. How she'd stay late at client dinners and come home smelling like whiskey and men's cologne. I'm not an idiot. I just didn't want to admit what I was seeing. But that morning, sitting in my kitchen with the sunlight making everything look deceptively peaceful, something clicked. Maybe it was the casual way she'd deliver the news. Maybe it was the presumption that I'd just accept it. Maybe it was realizing that she'd already decided, already committed, without even pretending to consider my feelings. Whatever it was, I felt something go cold and hard in my chest. I pulled out my phone and opened my calendar. New Year's Eve was circled in red, our trip to Paris. I'd booked it 3 months ago as an early anniversary present. First-class flights, a suite at a boutique hotel in the Marais, reservations at a Michelin-starred restaurant for New Year's dinner. The whole romantic package. Lauren had been thrilled. She'd told everyone about it, her coworkers, her friends, her social media followers. She'd bought new clothes specifically for Paris. She had the entire trip planned down to which cafes we'd visit each morning. I opened my laptop and pulled up the booking confirmation. Then I called the airline. "I need to modify a reservation," I said when the agent picked up. "I need to change it from 2 passengers to 1. There was typing on the other end. "And you want to cancel the second ticket?" "Yes. Just refund it or apply it as credit." "I don't care. I just need that seat removed from the booking." "May I ask why you're making this change?" I almost laughed. "Let's call it a scheduling conflict." More typing. "Okay, sir. I've processed that change. Your confirmation email should arrive within a few minutes. Is there anything else?" "Actually, yes. Can you make sure the hotel reservation is also changed to a single guest? I don't want there to be any confusion at check-in." "Certainly. I'll make a note on your account." When I hung up, my hands weren't shaking anymore. I felt eerily calm. Clear-headed, even. Like I'd been walking through fog for months and suddenly stumbled into sharp, cold air. I didn't tell Lauren what I'd done. I didn't mention Paris at all. When she got home that night, I was working on blueprints at my desk, and I greeted her normally. We ordered Thai food. We watched a movie. She scrolled through Instagram on her phone while I pretended to pay attention to the screen. It was terrifyingly easy to act normal when you'd stopped caring about keeping someone happy. The days leading up to Christmas were a masterclass in cognitive dissonance. Lauren was excited, genuinely, bubblingly excited, about seeing the Hendersons. She talked about Derek's mom's famous crown roast. About helping with the baby. About how lovely it would be to spend the holidays somewhere that felt like home. I drove up to Vermont alone. My parents asked about Lauren, and I gave them the story she'd fed me, work emergency, couldn't get away, felt terrible about it. My mom made sympathetic noises and packed up leftover pie for me to bring home. I spent Christmas Day helping my dad fix the porch railing and watching my nieces and nephews tear through wrapping paper. I checked my phone periodically. Lauren sent me photos throughout the day, the Henderson family Christmas tree, a blurry group shot of people I didn't know, a close-up of Derek's sister's baby with the caption "My heart." No photos of Derek. Interesting. At one point, my younger sister sat down next to me on the couch and said quietly, "You okay?" "Fine." "You don't seem fine." I looked at her. Emma's a lawyer, sharp as glass and twice as cutting when she needs to be. "Can I ask you something hypothetically?" "Oh, this should be good. If someone consistently prioritizes someone else over you, but gets upset when you point it out, what does that tell you?" Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "It tells you they're counting on you to be the reasonable one while they do whatever they want. It tells you they've figured out that you'll absorb the hurt to avoid conflict. Hypothetically." "Hypothetically." She squeezed my shoulder. For what it's worth, I never liked her. I almost laughed. "You could have mentioned that before I proposed." "Would you have listened?" "Probably not. When you're in the middle of something, you can't see the shape of it. You tell yourself that everyone has flaws, that compromise is part of partnership, that love means accepting someone's imperfections. You don't realize you're the only one compromising." I drove back to the city on the 26th. Lauren was already home when I arrived, unpacking her overnight bag in the bedroom. She looked gorgeous and glowing, like she'd just come back from a spa weekend. "How was Vermont?" she asked, kissing me quickly before returning to her suitcase. "Fine. Quiet." "How was Christmas?" "Oh my gosh, it was so wonderful." She was practically vibrating with enthusiasm. "Derek's mom really outdid herself with dinner, and the baby is just precious. I held her for like 2 hours straight." "That's great." I set my bag down. "Derek was there, I assume?" "Obviously." She rolled her eyes good-naturedly. "It's his family. But it was totally fine, Marcus. Very chill. You would have been bored, honestly." I nodded. I was watching her carefully, looking for tells. She seemed genuinely happy. Relaxed. No guilt in her expression, no nervousness in her movements. Either she had nothing to hide, or she was a better liar than I'd given her credit for. "So." She pulled out her phone. "We should start thinking about Paris. It's only 5 days away." My stomach did something complicated. "Right. Paris. I've been making lists." She curled up on the bed, scrolling. "I want to do the Musée d'Orsay on New Year's Day when it's less crowded. And we absolutely have to get croissants from that place in the 6th arrondissement that Jenna told me about." She was so excited. So genuinely, innocently excited about this trip that she had no idea she wasn't taking. I felt something twist in my chest. Not regret, exactly. More like the sick anticipation you feel before ripping off a bandage. "Sounds perfect," I said. The next 3 days were surreal. Lauren was in full preparation mode, packing, repacking, checking weather forecasts for Paris, buying last-minute items she absolutely needed. She'd laid out her outfits on our spare bed like she was staging a fashion shoot. She sent me articles about New Year's Eve celebrations in Paris. She updated her Instagram story with a countdown. Meanwhile, I had a confirmation email in my inbox that proved she wasn't on the flight. I kept expecting to feel guilty. Kept waiting for that moment of doubt where I'd think, this is too cruel, I should tell her. But every time I considered it, I'd remember her face when she told me about Christmas. That casual dismissal. That expectation that I'd just accept it. So I said nothing. On December 30th, Lauren's best friend Becca came over for lunch. I was in my home office when I heard them talking in the kitchen, their voices carrying down the hall. I still can't believe you're going to Paris tomorrow, Becca was saying. New Year's in Paris. It's literally every girl's dream. I know. Lauren's laugh was bright. Marcus really went all out with this one. First class, 5-star hotel, the works. I've been posting about it everywhere. Derek must be so jealous. There was a pause. Just a beat of silence, but it spoke volumes. Derek and I are just friends, Lauren said, but her voice had shifted slightly. Defensive. I'm just saying, you spent Christmas with his family, and now you're jetting off to the most romantic city in the world with your fiancé. That's got to sting a little. Well, Derek needs to grow up then. Lauren's tone was sharper now. I'm engaged. He knows that. If he can't handle me having a life with Marcus, that's his problem. My jaw clenched. If he can't handle it. Implying there was something for him to handle. Implying his feelings were still a factor in her decision-making. I closed my laptop and walked into the kitchen. Both women looked up, startled. Hey, babe, Lauren said, recovering quickly. We were just talking about tomorrow. I heard. I grabbed a water bottle from the fridge. You excited, Becca? Becca glanced between us, sensing tension. Oh, I'm not going. This is all Lauren. Right. I took a long drink. Well, it should be memorable. Lauren frowned slightly. You okay? You've been weird all week. Just work stress. I kissed the top of her head, and the casual intimacy of it felt like acting in a play. I'll let you two finish lunch. Back in my office, I pulled up the flight information. Departure, tomorrow, December 31st, at 2 p.m. Check-in opened at 11 a.m. Lauren would probably want to get to the airport by noon, given that it was an international flight and she was obsessive about being early. Which meant she'd find out around noon tomorrow that she wasn't on the passenger list. I imagined her at the check-in counter, handing over her passport with that confident smile. The agent checking the system. The confusion. The double-checking. The apology. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I'm not seeing you on this flight. Are you sure you have the right confirmation number? Then the dawning horror as she realized. I should have felt bad about it. I really should have. Instead, I felt something close to peace. New Year's Eve morning arrived with unexpected snow. Fat, white flakes drifting past the windows, coating the city in temporary beauty. Lauren was up early, practically bouncing around the apartment as she did her final preparations. Can you believe we're going to Paris today? She was checking her passport for the 15th time. I barely slept. I'm too excited. I was making coffee, moving through the familiar motions. You should probably do one last check of your bag. Make sure you have everything. Already done. Twice. She grabbed her phone. What time should we leave for the airport? I was thinking 11:30. That gives us plenty of time. Perfect. She was texting rapidly. I'm just letting Becca know we're heading out soon. She wants me to text her when we land. I wondered if Derek was on that text chain too. If she was letting him know she'd be offline for the next 12 hours, unreachable in a different time zone. At 11, Lauren started moving her luggage to the door. She'd packed 2 suitcases, one for the flight, one for checked baggage, plus a carry-on with her valuables. Her passport was in a leather holder. Her outfit was carefully chosen, designer jeans, a cashmere sweater, ankle boots. She looked like an Instagram travel influencer, ready for her close-up. I'm just going to do one more mirror check, she announced, disappearing into the bathroom. I looked at her luggage piled by the door. At the enthusiasm radiating from every carefully packed item. At the evidence of her excitement for a trip she thought we were taking together. My phone buzzed. An email from the airline, reminder, your flight to Paris departs in 3 hours. Single passenger confirmed. Okay, Lauren emerged, checking her reflection one last time. I'm ready. Let's do this. Actually, I said carefully, I need to talk to you about something first. She looked at me, and something in my tone must have registered because her smile faltered slightly. What's wrong? Is the flight delayed? No. The flight's fine. I pulled out my phone, opened the confirmation email, and handed it to her. But you're not on it. She stared at the screen, confused. What are you talking about? I cancelled your ticket. 3 weeks ago. Right after you told me you were spending Christmas with Derek's family. The color drained from her face. She read the email again, then looked up at me with an expression I'd never seen before, genuine shock mixed with dawning comprehension. You cancelled my ticket, she repeated slowly. That's right. To Paris. You cancelled my ticket to Paris. I also changed the hotel reservation to a single occupancy. So even if you somehow got yourself on a flight, you wouldn't have anywhere to stay. Her mouth opened and closed. For maybe the first time in our entire relationship, Lauren was speechless. Then the shock morphed into anger. Are you insane? You can't just, we're supposed to leave in 3 hours. I'm supposed to leave in 3 hours. You're supposed to stay here. Marcus, this is completely, she was sputtering, her face flushing red. You planned this? You've been lying to me for 3 weeks? I wasn't lying. I just didn't correct your assumption. You watched me pack. You listened to me talk about it. You let me tell everyone. She stopped, horror dawning. Oh my gosh. I told everyone. I've been posting about this trip for weeks. Yeah, that was a choice you made. Her hands were shaking as she thrust my phone back at me. Change it back. Right now. Call the airline and fix this. No. Marcus, you want to spend holidays with your ex's family? Fine. You want to maintain that relationship despite knowing it makes me uncomfortable? Your choice. But you don't get to have it both ways, Lauren. You don't get to prioritize Derek and then expect me to give you Paris. This isn't about Derek. Her voice was rising, cracking. This is about you being a vindictive, controlling, is it? I cut her off. Because from where I'm standing, everything has been about Derek for months. The texts. The client dinners. Christmas. You've been putting him first while taking me for granted, and I'm done pretending I don't see it. You're being paranoid. Then prove me wrong. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Tell me honestly that nothing happened at Christmas. Tell me you didn't spend the whole day finding excuses to be near him. Tell me he didn't drive you home, or walk you to your car, or find some private moment to tell you he still has feelings for you. Her silence was deafening. That's what I thought. I picked up my coffee cup. You should probably start unpacking your suitcases. Or don't. Keep them packed if it makes you feel better. I can't believe you're doing this. Her voice was small now, almost childlike. On New Year's Eve. You're really going to Paris without me. You went to Christmas without me. I'd say we're even, but honestly, Paris is probably worth more than Christmas in Connecticut. She stared at me, tears starting to stream down her face. Real tears, not the manipulative kind she'd used before. We're engaged, Marcus. We're supposed to be a team. Teams communicate. Teams compromise. Teams don't make unilateral decisions and expect the other person to just accept it. I rinsed my cup in the sink. You taught me that, actually. You're just upset I learned the lesson. So what? This is punishment. This is revenge? This is consequences. I grabbed my own luggage, already packed, already waiting by my office door. You decided Derek's family was more important than our plans. I decided Paris was too important to share with someone who'd rather be somewhere else. I never said I'd rather be. You didn't have to say it, Lauren. You showed it. Over and over again. She sank down onto the couch, her face in her hands. Her shoulders were shaking. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to take it all back, to fix this. That's what I'd always done before, absorbed the pain, smoothed over the conflict, made it okay. But I was tired. So incredibly tired of being the one who bent. I have to go, I said quietly. My ride to the airport is coming in 10 minutes. Don't. She looked up, mascara running. Please don't go. We can talk about this. We can figure it out. We can talk when I get back. If you're still here. That landed like a slap. What's that supposed to mean? It means maybe you should spend the next few days thinking about what you really want. Because if it's Derek, I need to know. And if it's me, you need to start acting like it. I wheeled my suitcase to the door. Lauren didn't move from the couch. She just sat there, staring at her hands, tears dripping onto her expensive jeans. Marcus, she whispered. I love you. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. I love you too. That's why this hurts so much. Then I left. The ride to the airport was quiet. I sat in the back of the car, watching the snowy city slide past, and felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just a hollow kind of numbness. My phone started buzzing before we even hit the highway. Text after text from Lauren. Please come back. We need to talk about this. You can't just leave like this. I'm sorry about Christmas, okay? I'm sorry. This is so unfair. Everyone is going to ask where you are. How am I supposed to explain this? I turned off my phone. At the airport, first-class check-in was mercifully quick. The agent who processed my ticket didn't ask about the cancelled second passenger. I made my way through security, found the lounge, and poured myself a whiskey despite the early hour. An older woman sitting nearby caught my eye and smiled sympathetically. Rough morning? You could say that. Holiday travel is always stressful. She sipped her own drink. But Paris is worth it. First time? Second. But it'll feel like the first. She nodded knowingly, and I wondered what story she was imagining. Probably not the truth. Probably something more romantic and less petty. But here's the thing, it didn't feel petty. Sitting there in the airport lounge, watching planes take off through the massive windows, I felt like I was finally respecting myself. Finally setting a boundary that meant something. Lauren had been right about one thing, I was being vindictive. But vindictive and wrong aren't the same thing. The flight was uneventful. I had the double seat to myself, just empty space where Lauren should have been. The flight attendant asked if I was traveling alone, and I said yes, and she gave me a pitying smile that suggested she'd heard that tone of voice before. I watched movies. I ate the good food. I drank wine that tasted like money. And I didn't feel bad about any of it. We landed at Charles de Gaulle at 7 the next morning, New Year's Day. I turned my phone back on while waiting for my luggage and watched it explode with notifications. 43 texts from Lauren. 15 missed calls. 6 voicemails. Multiple messages from Becca, from Lauren's sister, from people whose names I barely recognized. I ignored all of it and focused on the one message that mattered, a text from Emma. Mom says Lauren called the house crying. Said you abandoned her on New Year's Eve. Want to tell me what actually happened? I typed back, tell you when I'm back. Enjoying Paris. Send Mom my love. Her response was immediate, good for you. The hotel was perfect. A converted 18th century building in the Marais, all exposed beams and modern luxury. The suite had a balcony overlooking a narrow street lined with bistros and boutiques. I unpacked slowly, methodically, hanging clothes in the closet that suddenly seemed too large. Then I walked. Paris in winter is a different city. Fewer tourists, gray skies, bare trees in the Luxembourg Gardens. I walked until my feet ached, stopping at a cafe for coffee so strong it made my heart race. I sat at an outdoor table despite the cold, watching people pass, and felt like I could finally breathe. My phone rang. Lauren. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. I turned it off. That night, I ate alone at the Michelin-starred restaurant I'd reserved for two. The maitre d' didn't bat an eye at the single diner, just seated me at a prime table and brought me champagne. The food was extraordinary, each course a small work of art. I took photos, not for social media, but just to remember. Evidence that I'd been here, that I'd done this, that I'd chosen myself. Around midnight, fireworks started. I could hear them from the restaurant, and after paying the check, I walked to the Seine to watch. The Eiffel Tower was lit up, sparkling on the hour like it always does. Couples were kissing on the bridge. Groups of friends were passing bottles of champagne. I stood alone and thought about Lauren. About what she was doing right now. If she'd gone to some party and pretended everything was fine. If she'd called Derek. If she'd finally realized what she'd lost. Or maybe she was just angry. Maybe she'd spent the whole day raging, calling me names, painting herself as the victim in a story where she'd done nothing wrong. I'd find out soon enough. I stayed in Paris for 4 days. I visited museums and ate pastries and walked until my legs screamed. I sat in churches and stood on street corners and felt like a person again, separate from the relationship that had been defining me. On the 3rd day, I finally checked my messages. Lauren's texts had evolved. The early ones were angry, accusations, demands, threats about what she'd tell people. Then they turned desperate, apologetic, pleading for another chance. Then they stopped altogether, replaced by a single message sent yesterday. When you get back, we need to talk. Really talk. Becca had texted too, I don't know what happened, but Lauren is a mess. Whatever you did, it must have been bad. And from Emma, Mom's worried about you. Call her when you can. Also, just between us, I think you did the right thing. On my last night in Paris, I sat on the balcony of my hotel room with a glass of wine and composed a response to Lauren. I'll be back tomorrow. We can talk then. But you need to know that things can't go back to the way they were. I'm done being the only one who compromises. Her response came immediately, like she'd been waiting by her phone. I understand. I'm ready to talk. I've done a lot of thinking. I hope that was true. I hope she'd actually spent these days reflecting, not just strategizing how to win me back. But I wasn't optimistic. The flight home felt longer than the flight there. I kept running through potential conversations in my head, planning what I'd say, how I'd respond to her arguments. By the time we landed at JFK, I was exhausted. Lauren was waiting in the arrivals hall. I saw her before she saw me, standing near the exit, arms crossed, looking smaller somehow. She'd lost weight. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she wasn't wearing makeup. When she spotted me, her face crumpled with relief. Marcus. She moved toward me but stopped short, unsure if she was allowed to touch me. Hi. Hi. How was Paris? It was good. I adjusted my bag on my shoulder. We should probably go home. Have that talk. She nodded, tears already forming. Okay. The drive to our apartment was silent. Lauren kept opening her mouth like she wanted to say something, then closing it again. I kept my eyes on the road and my hands steady on the wheel. Inside, nothing had changed. The apartment looked exactly like it had when I left. Lauren's suitcases were still by the door, still packed, like she couldn't bring herself to put them away. Coffee? She offered weakly. Sure. While she made it, I sat at the kitchen island where this whole thing had started. Full circle. Lauren brought 2 mugs and sat across from me. Her hands were shaking slightly as she wrapped them around the ceramic. I've been thinking a lot, she started. About everything you said. About Christmas and Derek and us. And you were right. She took a shaky breath. I was prioritizing him. Maybe not consciously, but I was. I kept telling myself it was innocent, that we were just friends, but the truth is, I liked the attention. I liked feeling wanted by 2 people. I sipped my coffee and said nothing. Derek told me he still has feelings for me. She was looking down at her mug. At Christmas. He said he made a mistake letting me go, and he's been hoping we'd get back together. And what did you say? I told him I'm engaged. That I love you. That it would never happen. She looked up. And I meant it, Marcus. I do love you. But I've been unfair to you, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't really fix it, though. I know. Tears were running down her face now. But I want to try. I want to prove to you that I'm choosing you. I'll cut contact with Derek. I'll stop going to events where he'll be. I'll do whatever it takes. I studied her face, trying to see if this was manipulation or genuine remorse. With Lauren, it was always hard to tell. Here's what I think, I said slowly. I think you got comfortable. You got comfortable with the idea that I'd always be there, always be patient, always put up with whatever you dished out. And maybe I enabled that by never pushing back. She started to protest, but I held up a hand. But I'm not that person anymore. I can't be. So if you want this relationship to continue, things need to change. Real changes, not just promises. Like what? Like therapy. Couples counseling. Because we clearly can't communicate effectively. She nodded. Okay. And I need complete transparency about Derek. I need to see those texts, understand the full scope of that relationship, and then I need you to actually cut contact. Not just say you will, actually do it. Done. And I paused, because this was the hard part. I need you to understand that trust, once broken, doesn't just magically repair itself. It takes time. And if I find out you lied to me, about anything, I'm gone. No second chances. Her face was pale, but she nodded. I understand. We sat in silence for a long moment. The snow had started again outside, fat flakes drifting past the windows. The city looked clean and new and full of possibility. So what now? Lauren asked quietly. Now we try. If you're serious about this. I am. She reached across the table and took my hand. I promise I am. I wanted to believe her. Part of me still loved her, still wanted to salvage what we'd built. But another part, a newer, colder part, was watching carefully, looking for the cracks. Show me your phone, I said. She hesitated for just a second, a fraction of a moment, before unlocking it and sliding it across the table. I opened her messages and found the thread with Derek. The last message was from yesterday. I heard what happened with Marcus. I'm here if you need to talk. Her response, thanks, but I need to figure this out on my own. I scrolled up, reading through weeks of conversations. They were flirtatious in places, definitely crossing boundaries. But there was nothing explicitly incriminating. No plans to meet up in secret. No declarations of love. Just a slow, steady erosion of boundaries. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. I'm deleting his contact, I said, and I did it before she could respond. If he reaches out, you show me immediately. Understood? Understood. I handed back her phone. Now show me your Instagram. Her face fell. Marcus, show me. She pulled up her profile. I scrolled through her stories from the past week. There it was, the aftermath of my departure. Photos of her crying, captions about heartbreak and betrayal. Screenshots of our text messages, with my responses cropped out to make me look cruel. Her friends commenting supportive messages, painting me as the villain. You put our relationship problems on social media. My voice was flat. You made me the villain to hundreds of people who don't know the full story. I was hurt. She protested. I needed support. You needed attention. There's a difference. I set her phone down. Delete them. All of them. Right now. Marcus, that's not fair? Fair? I laughed, and it came out harsh. You want to talk about fair? You spent Christmas with your ex's family after I explicitly told you how uncomfortable that made me. You posted about Paris for weeks, making it public knowledge, turning our private relationship into content. And when I made a decision that hurt you, one decision, Lauren, in response to months of you hurting me, you ran to social media to make me look like a monster. So don't talk to me about fair. Her hands were shaking as she picked up her phone. One by one, she deleted the stories. The posts. The tearful selfies and cryptic captions. I watched her erase the narrative she'd built, the sympathy she'd cultivated. When she was done, she looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. What else do you want from me? I want you to take responsibility. Really take responsibility, not just apologize because you got caught. I am taking responsibility. No, you're doing damage control. There's a difference. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I did prioritize Derek. Maybe I did take you for granted. But you deliberately humiliated me. You planned it for weeks. You watched me get excited about Paris, knowing the whole time that you were going to crush me. That's not setting boundaries, Marcus. That's cruelty. There it was. The real Lauren, emerging from beneath the apologetic facade. You're absolutely right, I said calmly. It was cruel. Just like it was cruel to tell me you were spending Christmas elsewhere after plans were already made. Just like it was cruel to maintain an inappropriate relationship with your ex and gaslight me when I expressed discomfort. Just like it was cruel to post our private issues online for sympathy points. The difference is, my cruelty was a response. Yours was a pattern. She stared at me, breathing hard. So what, we're just keeping score now? Trading hurt for hurt? No. We're acknowledging reality. You hurt me repeatedly, and I finally hurt you back. And now we have to decide if we can move past it or if we're just going to keep wounding each other until there's nothing left. Lauren sank back into her chair, deflated. I don't want to keep fighting. Neither do I. But I don't know how to fix this. I don't know what you need from me. I finished my coffee, considering. I need you to be honest. Not performatively honest, but really honest. About Derek, about why you went to Christmas, about what you actually want. She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. I went to Christmas because Derek asked me to. Not his mom, Derek. He said he needed to see me, that we needed to talk. And I told myself it was innocent, but part of me knew it wasn't. Part of me liked that he still wanted me. At least that was honest. And did you talk? Just the two of you? On Christmas Eve. After everyone went to bed. We sat in his parents' den and he told me everything, that he regretted breaking up with me, that he'd been miserable watching me move on, that he thought we were meant to be together. My chest felt tight. And you said? I said I was engaged. That I loved you. That it was too late. She looked at me, tears streaming. But I didn't leave. I stayed for the whole conversation. I let him tell me how beautiful I looked, how much he missed me. I even hugged him goodbye, and it lasted too long. I knew it lasted too long. There it was. The truth I'd suspected but hadn't wanted to confirm. Did you kiss him? No. I swear I didn't. She was shaking now. But I thought about it. For maybe 5 seconds, I thought about what it would be like. And I hate myself for that. I stood up and walked to the window. The snow was coming down harder now, blanketing the city in white. Everything looked clean from up here. Deceptively simple. At least you're being honest now, I said to my reflection. Marcus, please. I know I messed up. But I'm telling you the truth because I want to fix this. I want us to work. Do you, though? I turned to face her. Or do you just want things to go back to the way they were, where you could have Derek's attention and my stability? That's not fair. Probably not. But I need to know, Lauren. I need to know if you're choosing me because you actually want me, or because Derek isn't available and I'm the safe option. She stood up, crossing the room to stand in front of me. I'm choosing you because when I was at that house, listening to Derek pour his heart out, all I could think about was you. Your laugh. The way you make me coffee in the morning without me asking. How you always know when I need space and when I need comfort. Derek is nostalgia. You're my life. It sounded good. It sounded like exactly what I wanted to hear. But I'd learned something in Paris, sitting alone in that beautiful city. I didn't need to be anyone's first choice. I just needed to not be their second. Here's what's going to happen, I said. We're going to try counseling. We're going to work on communication and boundaries and trust. And if, at any point, I feel like you're not fully committed, if I see one text from Derek, one secret meeting, one moment of dishonesty, I'm done. No dramatics, no fighting. I'll just leave. Okay. And you need to be okay with the fact that I don't trust you right now. That's going to take time to rebuild, and it's going to be uncomfortable. I understand. And no more social media oversharing about our relationship. What happens between us stays between us. I'm not interested in being part of your online narrative. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Anything else? Yeah. One more thing. I met her eyes. Thank you. She looked confused. For what? For being honest just now. For finally telling me the truth. That's more than you've done in months, and it matters. She let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. I really do love you, you know. I know. And I love you too. But love isn't enough on its own. We both know that now. She moved closer and wrapped her arms around me. I held her, feeling the familiar shape of her against me, and wondered if we could actually do this. If trust, once shattered, could be carefully glued back together. If two people who'd hurt each other could find their way back to something real. I didn't know. But I was willing to try. The next few weeks were strange. Lauren and I moved around each other carefully, like dancers learning new choreography. We started couples counseling with a therapist named Dr. Chen, who had a disconcerting way of asking questions that made us both squirm. In our third session, she asked Lauren, "Why do you think you needed validation from two men?" Lauren shifted uncomfortably. "I guess I've always been afraid of not being wanted." "And you, Marcus?" Dr. Chen turned to me. "Why did you choose such a dramatic way to set a boundary instead of simply having a conversation?" Because conversations hadn't worked. She'd always managed to turn it around, make me feel like I was being unreasonable. "So you felt unheard?" I felt like I was screaming into a void. Dr. Chen nodded. "You both have valid hurts. The question is whether you can acknowledge those hurts without weaponizing them." It was hard work. Some days I wanted to give up, to cut my losses and start over with someone new. Someone who didn't carry this baggage. But then Lauren would do something, reach for my hand while we watched TV, leave a note in my lunch, apologize without being prompted, and I'd remember why I'd fallen for her in the first place. She cut off Derek completely. Blocked his number, unfollowed him on social media, declined an invitation to a mutual friend's party because he'd be there. I could see the effort it took, could see her checking her phone sometimes with a wistful expression before catching herself. "Do you miss him?" I asked one night. She considered the question. "I miss the idea of him. The person I thought he was when we were together. But the reality is, Derek always put himself first. He broke up with me because long distance was inconvenient for him. And he only wanted me back when he saw I'd moved on. That's not love. That's ego. And this? I gestured between us. What's this? This is harder. And messier. And real." She smiled slightly. "You're not convenient, Marcus. You challenge me. You don't let me get away with things. I hated that about you when you canceled Paris, but I think I needed it. I'm still not sorry about Paris. I know. And weirdly, I respect that. We were in a different place now. Not back to where we'd been, that was impossible. But somewhere new, somewhere more honest. We knew each other's capacity for cruelty now. We'd seen each other at our worst. And somehow, we were still here." 3 months after Paris, Lauren came home from work with an envelope. She set it on the kitchen counter where I was making dinner and said, "I want to show you something." Inside were 2 plane tickets. To Paris. Leaving in 2 weeks. "I booked these myself," she said. "I paid for them with my own money. And if you don't want to go, I'll cancel both tickets and take the loss. But I'd really like the chance to make Paris a good memory for us instead of the symbol of everything we almost destroyed." I looked at the tickets, then at her. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. We've been doing the work. We're in a good place. And I think we deserve a do-over." She was right. We had been doing the work. Lauren showed up to every counseling session, did the homework Dr. Chen assigned, communicated when things were hard instead of shutting down. She'd become more thoughtful, more present, more aware of how her actions affected me. And I'd become less rigid, less punishing. I'd learned to voice my needs before resentment built to explosive levels. To trust that discomfort in the moment was better than silent suffering. "Okay," I said. "Let's go to Paris." Her face lit up. "Really? Really? But I get to plan the itinerary this time." "Deal." 2 weeks later, we were back at JFK this time together. Lauren's hand was in mine as we checked in, as we moved through security, as we found our gate. She kept squeezing my fingers, like she was making sure I was real. "Nervous?" I asked. "A little. The last time we were here, I was devastated. I'm afraid I'll remember that feeling. Then we'll make new memories. Better ones." The flight was everything the first one wasn't. We watched the same movie on the shared screen between our seats, laughing at the same parts. We ate the airplane food and made fun of how fancy it was trying to be. Lauren fell asleep on my shoulder somewhere over the Atlantic, and I stayed awake, watching her breathe, feeling the weight of her trust. Paris in spring was completely different from Paris in winter. The trees were blooming. The streets were crowded. The air smelled like flowers and bread and possibility. We stayed at the same hotel, and Lauren cried when she saw the room. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It was beautiful last time too," I said. "I just couldn't enjoy it properly." This time, we did everything together. We wandered through the Marais holding hands. We ate croissants from the bakery Becca had recommended. We visited the Musée d'Orsay and stood in front of the Van Gogh paintings, not saying anything, just being. On our last night, we went to a small restaurant near Notre Dame. No Michelin stars, no reservations required. Just good food and wine and conversation that flowed easily. "Thank you for giving us another chance," Lauren said, raising her glass. "Thank you for proving it was worth it." We clinked glasses, and I thought about how far we'd come. How close we'd been to losing each other. How easily this whole story could have ended differently, with bitterness and lawyers and social media posts about toxic relationships. Instead, we'd chosen the harder path. The path of honesty and accountability and forgiveness. It wasn't perfect. We still had bad days, still fought sometimes. But we fought fair now. We fought to understand, not to win. After dinner, we walked along the Seine. The Eiffel Tower was sparkling in the distance, and tourists were taking photos, and street musicians were playing for coins. It was cliché and beautiful and exactly right. "You know," Lauren said, "I've been thinking about the engagement." My stomach tightened. "Yeah? I want to give you back the ring." "Lauren, not to break up," she said quickly. "But because I think you should propose again. When we're ready. When we've really rebuilt what we broke. I don't want to marry you with all this baggage still attached to the engagement. I want a fresh start." I stopped walking. She looked nervous, like she wasn't sure how I'd react. But she was right. The ring on her finger represented a different relationship, one built on assumption and avoidance. We were different people now. "Okay," I said. "Give me the ring." She slid it off and placed it in my palm. Her hand looked naked without it, vulnerable. "But I'm keeping it," I added. "Because someday, maybe not soon, but someday, I'm going to ask you again. And you're going to say yes. And we're going to mean it more than we ever did before." She kissed me then, right there on the bridge, with Paris glowing around us and the river flowing beneath. And it felt like a promise. Not of perfection, but of possibility. Of two broken people choosing to build something new from the pieces. We flew home the next day. Back to reality, back to work and therapy and the daily negotiation of sharing a life. But something had shifted. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were actually building something. 6 months later, I proposed again. Not in Paris, not with some grand gesture. Just in our apartment, on a random Tuesday night, after we'd successfully navigated a disagreement without anyone storming off or shutting down. "I think we're ready," I said, pulling out the ring. Lauren looked at it, then at me, and started laughing. "You're proposing because we had a healthy argument?" "I'm proposing because we're finally being honest. Because you chose me, and I chose you, and we both know exactly what that means now." She said yes, obviously. And this time, when we told people, when we started planning, when we looked ahead to the future, it felt real. Built on foundation that had been tested and proven. Not perfect, but solid. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled the Paris situation. If I think I went too far, if I should have just talked to her instead of canceling the ticket. The answer is complicated. I don't think I handled it perfectly. There were probably kinder ways to make my point. But I also don't think talking would have worked, not then, not with how things were. Sometimes people need to experience consequences to understand impact. Lauren and I had been playing a game where I absorbed all the hurt and she did whatever she wanted. The Paris incident broke that pattern. It forced us both to confront what we'd been avoiding. Was it cruel? Yes. Was it necessary? I think so. Would I do it again? Probably not. But I also wouldn't be in a position where I needed to, because we're different now. We communicate. We prioritize each other. We don't keep score. Well, not usually. Sometimes, when Lauren's scrolling through photos on her phone, she'll come across the pictures from Christmas at the Hendersons. She'll pause, just for a second, before moving on. And I'll remember what she told me about that night with Derek. The conversation. The too long hug. The 5 seconds where she considered it. And I'll think about Paris. About sitting in that restaurant alone while she was at home, devastated. About the cold satisfaction I felt when I walked out the door with my suitcase. We've both capable of hurting each other. We've proven that. The difference now is that we choose not to. Most days, that's enough. A year after the Paris incident, Lauren surprised me with an anniversary gift, a framed photo of the Eiffel Tower at night, taken from the bridge where we'd stood together on our second trip. Beneath it, she'd written, "To second chances and new beginnings. Thank you for not giving up on us." I hung it in my office, where I could see it while I worked. A reminder of how close we came to losing everything. A reminder that sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. Derek, for what it's worth, moved to Seattle and got engaged to someone else. Lauren saw the announcement on social media and showed it to me without hesitation. How do you feel about that? I asked, relieved, mostly. It makes it easier to think of him as the past. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd chosen differently? She considered it. Sometimes. But then I remember that Derek wanted a version of me that doesn't exist anymore. The me that needed constant validation, that made decisions to avoid discomfort. You fell in love with the real me, messy and flawed and capable of growth. That's better than any fantasy. I pulled her close, and she fit against me the way she always had, but it felt different now. Chosen, not just comfortable. For the record, I said, I'm glad you came to Christmas with your ex's family. She pulled back to look at me. Really? Really? Because if you hadn't, I might have married you without realizing how broken our communication was. I might have spent years being quietly unhappy, thinking that's just how relationships work. So me screwing up saved our relationship? More like your screwing up forced us to fix what was already broken. We just hadn't admitted it yet. She laughed. That's a generous interpretation. I'm a generous guy. You canceled my ticket to Paris. Like I said. Generous. She kissed me, and I could feel her smiling against my lips. We'd earned this lightness. This ability to joke about the worst moment of our relationship because we'd survived it and come out stronger. Not everyone gets that chance. Some couples break and stay broken. Some people hurt each other and never recover. We were lucky, or stubborn, or maybe just desperate enough to do the work. Whatever it was, it worked. So that's the story of how I went to Paris alone and came back engaged. Well, eventually engaged. Technically re-engaged. It's complicated. But here's what I learned. Love isn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It's not about never hurting each other or always getting it right. It's about choosing to stay, even when staying is hard. It's about honesty, even when honesty is ugly. It's about consequences and forgiveness and the slow, difficult work of building trust. And sometimes, it's about canceling someone's ticket to Paris. Not because you want to hurt them, but because you need to save yourself. Lauren and I got married last month. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. No drama, no social media announcements, no ex-boyfriends in attendance. Just two people who knew exactly what they were promising and why it mattered. During our vows, Lauren promised to choose me every day, even when other options presented themselves. I promised to speak up when I was hurt instead of letting resentment build. Simple promises. Specific. Born from real experience. After the ceremony, my sister Emma pulled me aside. You two are going to be okay, she said. How do you know? Because you both know how close you came to losing this. That kind of awareness, that's what most couples never get until it's too late. She was right. We'd stood at the edge and looked into the abyss of what our relationship could become if we weren't careful. And we'd stepped back. Together. That night, at the reception, I found Lauren standing alone on the terrace, looking at the stars. Happy? I asked, wrapping my arms around her from behind. Terrified, actually. Of what? Of screwing this up again. Of letting you down. Of proving that I'm not as changed as I think I am. I turned her to face me. You want to know a secret? I'm terrified too. I'm terrified that my anger isn't as resolved as I pretend. That I'm still keeping score somewhere deep down. That one day you'll do something small and I'll overreact because I never fully forgave you for Christmas. So we're both disasters. Aware disasters. Which is better than oblivious ones. She laughed, and it sounded like relief. How did we get here? Paris, I said. Everything changed in Paris. Both times. Both times, I agreed. And standing there under the stars, married now, choosing each other with full knowledge of the cost and the reward, I thought about the man I'd been a year ago. Sitting in an airport lounge with whiskey and righteousness, convinced he was teaching his fiancée a lesson. I'd been right and wrong in equal measure. Right that something had to change. Wrong about thinking I could control how it happened. But here's the thing about consequences, they don't just affect the person you're punishing. They reshape you too. They force you to confront your own capacity for cruelty, your own willingness to hurt someone you love if you think they deserve it. I'm not proud of canceling Lauren's ticket. I'm not sure I'd recommend it as a relationship strategy. But I'm also not sorry, because it cracked us both open in a way that conversation never could have. Sometimes you have to break something to see how it's really built. Sometimes you have to lose something to understand what you're actually holding. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get the chance to put it back together stronger than it was before. Lauren and I? We're not perfect. We probably never will be. But we're honest now. We're present. We fight fair and forgive faster and choose each other deliberately, every single day. And we're planning a trip to Paris for our 1-year anniversary. Together this time. Both of us on the flight. Both of us meaning it. That's the happy ending, I suppose. Not that we never hurt each other again. Not that everything's magically fixed. Just that we learned how to hurt better. How to heal better. How to be better, together than we could ever be apart. And if you're reading this because you're in a similar situation, if your partner is choosing someone else, prioritizing their past over your present, making you feel crazy for having boundaries, here's what I want you to know. You deserve to be someone's first choice. Not their backup plan. Not their safe option while they keep someone else warm in their peripheral vision. And if they can't give you that? If they keep prioritizing everything and everyone else while expecting you to be patient and understanding and endlessly forgiving? Then maybe they need to miss a flight. Maybe they need to feel what it's like when the person they've been taking for granted finally chooses themselves. And maybe, if you're both willing to do the work, to be brutally honest, to rebuild from the ground up, you'll find your way back to each other. Or maybe you won't. Either way, you'll have your self-respect. And trust me when I tell you, that's worth more than any trip to Paris. Story 4.
My mom forgot presents for my adopted daughter at Christmas. She said she ran out of money because she lost her job. Meanwhile, her real grandkids got iPhones and even a new $5,000 gaming PC. I didn't say a word or complain. I just nodded, took my daughter's coat, and that night, I ended every shared subscription, credit card, and mortgage which is in my name. By morning, there were 67 missed calls. I smiled and replied, I'm going to tell you something that still makes my hands shake when I think about it, and I need you to understand that I'm not a vengeful person. I've never been the type to burn bridges or air dirty laundry. But what my mother did to my daughter on Christmas morning crossed a line so far into unforgivable territory that I can't even see where the line used to be. Let me back up. My daughter's name is Emma. She's 7 years old, with these enormous brown eyes that crinkle at the corners when she laughs, and she has this habit of humming Disney songs under her breath when she's concentrating on something. I adopted her 2 years ago, after fostering her for 18 months before that. Her biological parents had their rights terminated when she was 3, and by the time she came into my life, she'd been through 4 foster homes. 4. She was 5 years old and had lived in more houses than most adults. The first night she stayed with me, she asked if she could sleep with her backpack on. Just in case, she said. Just in case she had to leave quickly. It took 6 months before she stopped asking if I was going to send her back. My mother never approved of the adoption. She didn't say it outright at first, because my mother is the queen of passive-aggressive comments wrapped in concern. Are you sure you're ready for this kind of commitment? Don't you think you should focus on finding a husband first? What if she has problems you can't handle? But I went through with it anyway, because the moment Emma looked up at me in that foster care office and asked if I was going to be her forever mom, I knew. I just knew. My mother came around eventually. Or at least, I thought she had. She started including Emma in family gatherings, remembered her birthday, even bought her a few outfits here and there. Nothing extravagant, but enough that I believed we were building something. That Emma was becoming part of the family. I should have known better. My sister Rachel has 2 kids. Brendan is 12, and Olivia is 14. They're fine kids, a little spoiled maybe, but that's not their fault. Rachel married a guy who does something in finance that I don't fully understand but apparently pays extremely well, and they live in this massive house with a 3-car garage and a pool. My mother has always been proud of Rachel in a way she's never been proud of me. Rachel did things right, in her eyes. Got married young, had kids the traditional way, stayed home to raise them. I, on the other hand, was 34 and single when I adopted Emma, working full-time as a systems analyst, and apparently that made me some kind of cautionary tale. Still, I helped my mother. I helped her a lot, actually. When she got divorced from my father 8 years ago, I was the one who co-signed her mortgage so she could refinance and keep the house. I was the one who added her to my cell phone plan when she couldn't afford her own. I paid for her streaming services, her car insurance, half her utilities. My credit was excellent. Hers was, let's just say, less than excellent. Rachel didn't help. Rachel's husband didn't think it was a good investment, she told me once, as if our mother was a stock portfolio. So I did it. Because she was my mother, and you help family. The trouble really started about 6 months ago. My mother mentioned she'd lost her job at the dental office where she'd worked part-time as a receptionist. Budget cuts, she said. They let go of everyone over 50. I felt terrible for her. I increased the amount I was sending her each month for utilities, made sure she knew she could ask if she needed anything else. She never mentioned being hired anywhere new. I asked a few times, gently, and she'd brush it off. Tough market, she'd say. Nobody wants to hire someone my age. Meanwhile, Rachel's family kept upgrading everything. New cars, new furniture, a vacation to Hawaii. My mother would show me pictures on her phone, beaming with pride. Look at what Brendan's getting for his birthday, she'd say. Look at Olivia's new room. I was happy for them. Genuinely. I didn't need my mother to split her attention equally or prove she loved Emma as much as Rachel's kids. I just needed her to treat Emma like she mattered. Christmas was at my mother's house this year, like always. She insisted on hosting despite her financial troubles, said it was tradition. I offered to bring food, decorations, anything she needed. She waved me off. She had it handled, she said. Emma was so excited. She'd made construction paper ornaments at school and wanted to bring them to Grandma's house. She picked out a new dress, red velvet with a white bow, and practiced twirling in it for a week. She asked me if she could call my mother Grandma instead of Miss Linda, and when I said yes, her whole face lit up. We got there around 10 in the morning on Christmas Day. Rachel's family was already there, sprawled across the living room in coordinated pajamas that probably cost more than my couch. My mother answered the door wearing a Mrs. Claus apron and too much perfume, pulling me into a hug that felt performative. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart," she said. Then she looked down at Emma, and her smile tightened. "Oh, Emma? Don't you look nice?" The tree was massive, decorated within an inch of its life, and underneath it was a pile of presents that could have been mistaken for a department store display. Brendan and Olivia were already tearing into theirs, wrapping paper flying, squealing over every new thing. I saw an iPhone box, an iPad, a Nintendo Switch, gift cards, clothes, a pile for each of them. Emma stood next to me, holding my hand, her eyes wide. "Go ahead, sweetie," I told her. "See if Grandma left anything with your name on it." She approached the tree carefully, like she was afraid to disturb it. She knelt down and started looking through the tags, her little fingers brushing over each one. Brendan. Olivia. Brendan. Olivia. Rachel. Mom. Nothing for Emma. She looked back at me, confused. My stomach dropped. I walked over and started looking myself, thinking maybe there was a mistake, maybe the gifts were in another room. But no. There was nothing. My mother came up behind me, drying her hands on a dish towel. "Oh, did Emma want to open something?" I turned to her slowly. "Mom. Where are Emma's presents?" She blinked at me, and I swear I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe. Or annoyance. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I just ran out of money this year. You know I lost my job, and things have been tight, and I already spent so much on Brendan and Olivia, and I just didn't have anything left." I stared at her. My ears were ringing. "You didn't have anything left," I repeated. "I feel terrible about it," she said, reaching out to touch my arm. I stepped back. "But you understand, right? I'm barely scraping by." Emma was still standing by the tree, watching us. Her face was blank, but I knew that look. I'd seen it before. It was the look she had when she thought she'd done something wrong, when she thought she was about to be sent away. I felt something cold settle into my chest. "It's okay, Mom," I said quietly. "Don't worry about it." Her face relaxed. She smiled. "I knew you'd understand. You've always been so reasonable." I nodded. I took Emma's hand. "We're going to head out, actually. Emma's not feeling well." "Oh, but we haven't even had lunch yet," my mother protested. "Yeah, I think we need to go." I helped Emma into her coat. She didn't say a word. Rachel barely looked up from her phone. Brendan and Olivia didn't notice we were leaving. My mother walked us to the door, still making excuses, still acting like this was all perfectly reasonable. I drove home in silence. Emma stared out the window. "I'm sorry, baby," I said finally. "It's okay," she whispered. "I didn't really want anything anyway." That was the moment I knew I was done. When we got home, I told Emma to pick out a movie and get cozy on the couch. I made her hot chocolate, extra marshmallows, and tucked a blanket around her. Then I went into my office and closed the door. I pulled up my laptop and started going through accounts. My mother was on my phone plan. 2 lines, unlimited data. I removed her. She was an authorized user on 2 of my credit cards. I called the banks and had her removed from both. She had access to my Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Spotify, and Amazon Prime. I changed every password and removed her profiles. The mortgage. That one took longer. I looked up the refinancing documents, found the contact information for our lender, and sent an email explaining that I needed to discuss removing myself as a cosigner due to changed circumstances. I knew it would take time, but I started the process. I went through my bank account and canceled the automatic transfers I'd set up for her utilities. I deleted her from my emergency contact lists. I removed her from my insurance beneficiaries. It took me 3 hours to untangle everything, and the entire time, my hands didn't shake once. I felt calm, focused, clear. When I was done, I made dinner for Emma and we watched her movie. She fell asleep on the couch, and I carried her to bed, kissed her forehead, and whispered that I loved her. She murmured something back, still half asleep, and squeezed my hand. I slept better that night than I had in months. The next morning, I woke up to 67 missed calls. 67. 43 from my mother. 21 from Rachel. 3 from numbers I didn't recognize that I assume were Rachel's husband or maybe even Brendan and Olivia. There were texts too. Dozens of them. From my mother, "Why isn't my phone working? Did you do something to the account? I can't log into Netflix. Call me. This is ridiculous. You're being childish? I'm your mother." From Rachel, "What did you do? Mom is freaking out. You need to fix this. She's crying. How could you be so selfish? It's Christmas." I made myself coffee. I scrambled some eggs. I woke Emma up gently and asked her what she wanted for breakfast. She asked for pancakes, so I made pancakes. We ate together at the kitchen table, and she told me about the dream she'd had, something about a talking cat and a castle made of candy. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Finally, around 10, I picked it up. I opened a new message thread with my mother and typed, "Hi Mom. I realize that since money is so tight for you right now, it didn't make sense for me to keep adding to your financial burden by making you feel obligated to include Emma in family gift exchanges. I've removed all the extra expenses I was covering so you can focus on getting back on your feet. I know how stressful money problems can be, and I don't want to make things harder. I'm sure you understand. Take care." I hit send. The response was immediate. My phone rang. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. A text, "We need to talk about this." I didn't respond. Another call. Another decline. Then my mother tried a different approach. "Sweetheart, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Can we please just talk?" I put my phone on silent and took Emma to the park. We spent the whole day out. We went to the park, then to a bookstore where I let her pick out 3 new books, then to her favorite pizza place. She was smiling again, humming under her breath, and that was all I cared about. When we got home that evening, there were more messages. Rachel had escalated. "You're being selfish and cruel. Mom is devastated. She can't even afford her mortgage without you. You're going to make her lose her house over a Christmas present? Grow up." I sat on the couch and read through all of them. Every guilt trip, every accusation, every attempt to paint me as the villain. And then I saw it. A text from my mother to Rachel, except my mother had accidentally sent it to our family group chat instead. I don't know why she's being such a drama queen. It's not like Emma is really her kid anyway. I didn't think she'd make such a big deal out of it. I stared at that message for a long time. Not really her kid. I took a screenshot, then I opened a new message to my mother. "I saw what you said. You're right. I'm making too big a deal out of this. I apologize for overreacting. Let me know when you'd like to get together to talk things through in person." She responded within seconds. "Oh, thank goodness. Yes. Let's talk. Tomorrow?" "Sure," I typed. "How about coffee at 2? "Perfect. I'll see you then. I'm so glad we're going to work this out." I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was anxious, but because I was planning. The next day, I dropped Emma off at my friend Cassie's house for a playdate. Cassie knew what had happened and had offered to take Emma for the afternoon, no questions asked. Then I drove to the coffee shop near my mother's house and got there 15 minutes early. I ordered a latte and sat in the corner booth, the one with a view of the parking lot. I watched her pull up in her car, a car that was only 3 years old and had a payment I knew she couldn't afford on her own. She walked in wearing an expression I'd seen 1,000 times before. Wounded. Martyred. Ready to explain why I was wrong and she was the victim. She spotted me and hurried over, sliding into the booth across from me. "Oh, sweetheart," she started. "I'm so glad you agreed to meet. I was so worried. I don't understand what happened, but I know we can fix this. I got your text, I said calmly. She froze. What text? The one you sent to the family chat by accident. About Emma not really being my kid. Her face went pale, then red. Oh. That. Honey, you took that out of context. Did I? I was just upset. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I took a sip of my coffee. How did you mean it? She fumbled for words. I just meant that, she's not biologically yours, so I didn't think you'd be so sensitive about the present thing. I didn't know you'd take it so personally. Right, I said. Because she's not really my kid. That's not what I meant. But it's what you said. She reached across the table, trying to grab my hand. I pulled back. Please, she said. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. You know I love Emma. Do you? Of course I do. Then why didn't she get a single present on Christmas while Brendan got a $5,000 gaming PC? I told you, I ran out of money. You didn't run out of money, Mom. You chose where to spend it. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. I have more history with Brendan and Olivia. They're my first grandkids. I've known them their whole lives. And Emma has been in this family for 2 years. Plenty of time to make her feel welcome. I didn't mean to make her feel unwelcome. But you did. She sat back, crossing her arms. So what, you're just going to cut me off completely? Over a Christmas present? Over the fact that you don't see my daughter as part of this family? That's not fair. Isn't it? You said she's not really my kid. You didn't get her a single present while her cousins got thousands of dollars worth of gifts. You didn't even apologize to her. You made excuses to me. I told you I was sorry. You told me you ran out of money. That was a lie. She flinched. How do you know? I pulled out my phone and opened a photo. It was from Rachel's social media, posted 2 days before Christmas. A picture of my mother and Rachel at a nail salon, both of them holding up their freshly manicured hands. The caption, "Best mom ever treating me to a mani-pedi day." I turned the phone around so she could see it. Her face crumbled. That wasn't expensive. I don't care how much it cost. You told me you were broke. You told me you couldn't afford to get Emma anything. And then you went and got your nails done. That was Rachel's treat. Rachel paid? She hesitated. Mostly. So you had some money. It was just a little bit. It didn't mean anything. I put my phone away. Here's what's going to happen. I've already removed you from my phone plan, my credit cards, and my streaming accounts. I'm in the process of removing myself from your mortgage. You're going to have to refinance on your own, which might be difficult given that you lied about losing your job. Her eyes widened. How did you? I called the dental office. You didn't lose your job. You quit because you didn't like the new manager. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. Who told you that? Does it matter? I was going to tell you. When? She didn't answer. You lied to me so I'd give you more money. And then you used that money to spoil Rachel's kids while ignoring mine. She's not really, she stopped herself, but the damage was done. I stood up. We're done here. Wait. She grabbed my wrist. Please. Don't do this. I'm sorry. I'll do better. I'll get Emma something, I'll make it up to her. I pulled my wrist away. It's too late for that. She's not going to remember this in a few years. Yes, she will. And so will I. I walked out of the coffee shop and didn't look back. That night, I sat Emma down on the couch. I'd been dreading this conversation, but I knew it had to happen. Hey, Bug, I said. I need to talk to you about something. She looked up from the book she was reading. Okay. You know how we went to Grandma's house for Christmas? She nodded, and her face got that careful, neutral expression again. I need you to know that what happened there wasn't your fault. It had nothing to do with you, okay? Okay, she said quietly. Grandma made a choice, and it was a hurtful choice, and I don't think it's a good idea for us to spend time with her right now. Emma's eyes got big. Did I do something wrong? No, baby. No. You didn't do anything wrong. I promise. Are you sure? I pulled her into my lap. I'm sure. You are the best thing that's ever happened to me. You're smart and funny and kind, and I love you more than anything in the world. Grandma is the one who made a mistake, not you. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I don't think I want to go back there anyway. You don't have to. Will she be mad at us? She might be. But that's okay. We're going to be fine, just the two of us. She leaned her head against my chest. I like it when it's just us. Me too, Bug. Me too. The calls and texts continued for a few days. My mother tried everything. Apologies, guilt trips, anger, bargaining. Rachel joined in, telling me I was tearing the family apart, that I was being dramatic, that I needed to forgive and move on. I blocked them both. A week later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Hi, is this Emma's mom? Yes. Who's this? This is Jessica from Little Learners Preschool. I'm calling because Emma's grandmother tried to pick her up today, and she's not on the approved list. My blood went cold. What? She said there was a family emergency and she needed to take Emma home. But when we checked our records, she's not listed as an emergency contact. Did you let her take Emma? No, of course not. We'd never release a child to someone not on the list. I just wanted to let you know in case you need to update any information. Thank you, I said. My voice was shaking. Thank you for following procedure. Can you do me a favor and make a note in Emma's file that under no circumstances should my mother be allowed to pick her up or have any contact with her at school? Absolutely. I'll make that note right now. I hung up and immediately called my lawyer. That's when things got serious. My lawyer advised me to file for a restraining order, given that my mother had attempted to pick up Emma from school without permission. It felt extreme, but my lawyer pointed out that someone who would lie to school staff to gain access to a child was not someone whose judgment could be trusted. The restraining order was granted. My mother showed up at my house twice after that, both times banging on the door and demanding to be let in. I called the police both times. The second time, they warned her that if she came back, she'd be arrested. Rachel sent me one final message: I hope you're happy. You've destroyed this family. I didn't respond. Here's the thing nobody tells you about cutting off toxic family members: it doesn't feel like freedom at first. It feels like grief. I grieve the mother I'd wanted, the grandmother Emma deserved. I grieve the fantasy of a happy, functional family that I'd been trying to build out of broken pieces. But underneath the grief was something else. Relief. Emma started sleeping through the night again. She stopped asking if she'd done something wrong. She stopped flinching when the phone rang. We built our own traditions. We spent holidays with Cassie and her family, who folded us in like we'd always belonged. We went to therapy, both of us, separately and together. We talked about what family means, about how sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. Emma started calling me Mom instead of Mama. It happened gradually, naturally, and the first time she did it without thinking about it, I cried. 6 months after that Christmas, I got an email from my mother. It was long, rambling, and full of justifications. She was sorry, she said. She missed me. She wanted to meet Emma for lunch and make things right. At the bottom of the email, she'd included a list of all the things I'd done wrong. How I'd overreacted. How I'd been cruel to cut her off. How I owed her for everything she'd done for me growing up. I read it once, then deleted it. I didn't owe her anything. A year later, I ran into Rachel at the grocery store. She was pushing a cart full of organic produce and expensive wine, and when she saw me, she stopped. "Hi," she said. "Hi." We stood there for a moment in the pasta aisle, two strangers who used to be sisters. "How's Emma?" she asked finally. "She's great. How are your kids?" "Good. They're good." Another pause. "Mom asks about you," Rachel said. "I'm sure she does. She really is sorry, you know." "Maybe," I said. "But that doesn't change anything." Rachel's face hardened. "You're really not going to forgive her? Ever?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe someday. But not anytime soon. She's getting older. What if something happens to her? Then I'll deal with it when it happens." "You're so cold." I looked at my sister, this woman who'd watched our mother hurt my daughter and had decided I was the problem. "I'm not cold," I said. "I'm just done." I pushed my cart past her and didn't look back. That night, Emma and I made cookies. She stood on a stool at the counter, carefully measuring flour, and told me about a boy in her class who tried to trade her his Pokémon cards for her snack pack. She was laughing, covered in flour, completely unbothered by the fact that half the family had decided we weren't worth knowing. And I realized something. I'd spent so long trying to make my mother see Emma the way I did, trying to force her into a role she had no interest in playing. I'd wasted energy and money and emotional bandwidth on someone who'd proven over and over that she wasn't going to change. But Emma didn't need a grandmother who saw her as less than. She didn't need cousins who got iPhones while she got nothing. She didn't need a family who would only love her conditionally. She had me. And I had her. And that was enough. 2 years have passed since that Christmas. Emma is 9 now, thriving in school, playing soccer, learning piano. She has friends and sleepovers and birthday parties. She has a mom who would burn the world down before letting anyone make her feel unwanted again. My mother still tries to reach out occasionally, always through new email addresses or messages sent through distant relatives. I don't respond anymore. There's nothing left to say. Sometimes people ask if I regret it. If I think I went too far, if I should have tried harder to work things out. I don't. Because the thing is, I didn't destroy my family. My mother did that when she decided some grandchildren were worth more than others. Rachel helped when she defended that choice. I just stopped pretending it was okay. And you know what? I didn't smile when I replied to that message from my mother the morning after I cut her off. That's not quite true. I didn't smile because Emma was watching me, and I didn't want her to think any of this was funny or satisfying. I didn't want her to learn that hurting people back feels good. But I will tell you this, when I hit send on that message, when I watched the delivered receipt pop up and imagined my mother reading those words, realizing what she'd lost, I didn't feel bad. Not even a little bit. Because I'd made a promise to Emma the day she asked if I was going to be her forever mom. I promised her that I would always choose her, always protect her, always make sure she knew she was wanted. And I meant it. My mother forgot presents for my daughter on Christmas. She forgot because she didn't think Emma mattered. She didn't think Emma was really part of the family. So I helped her remember what it feels like when people you rely on forget about you. And I don't regret it for a second. But let me tell you about the part I haven't shared yet. The part that still wakes me up sometimes at 3 a.m, heart racing, wondering if I made the right choice. 3 months after I cut off contact, my mother had a health scare. Rachel called from a restricted number, so it got through before I could block it. "Mom's in the hospital," she said without preamble. "Heart attack? Thought you should know." Then she hung up. I stood in my kitchen, phone in hand, feeling like the floor had disappeared beneath me. Because here's the thing about cutting off a parent, you don't stop being their child. You don't stop carrying that deep, primal fear that something will happen to them and you'll be left with nothing but regret. Emma was at school. I had 3 hours before pickup. I sat down at the kitchen table and stared at the wall. Was this my fault? Had the stress of losing her financial support caused this? Was I responsible? I called the hospital. They wouldn't tell me anything because I wasn't listed as next of kin anymore. Rachel had apparently handled that. So I sat there, paralyzed, trying to figure out what the right thing to do was. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number: "She's asking for you." I didn't respond. Another text, 10 minutes later: "She's crying. She wants to see Emma." My hands clenched around the phone. A third text: "How can you be so heartless? She almost died." I turned off my phone. Here's what I didn't do: I didn't rush to the hospital. I didn't bring Emma to see her grandmother. I didn't apologize or reconcile or pretend that a health scare erased what had happened. What I did do was call my therapist and have an emergency session at noon. We talked for an hour about guilt and manipulation and the difference between compassion and allowing yourself to be used. "You're allowed to have boundaries even when someone is sick," my therapist said. In fact, that's when boundaries are most important. Because people know that's when you're most vulnerable to breaking them. My mother didn't die. She had a mild cardiac event, spent 2 days in the hospital, and was sent home with medication and instructions to reduce stress. Rachel sent me one final text from her actual number: "I hope you can live with yourself." I could. Barely, some days. But I could. The thing nobody warns you about is how the rest of the world reacts when you cut off a parent. People hear I don't speak to my mother and they make assumptions. They think you're cold, ungrateful, damaged. They don't ask what she did. They just know that good daughters don't abandon their mothers. I lost friends over it. People I'd known for years suddenly got distant when they found out. One friend actually said to me, "But she's your mom. How bad could it really have been?" I stopped explaining after that. If someone couldn't understand that you don't owe someone unlimited chances just because you share DNA, then they weren't going to get it no matter how many times I explained. But there were people who did understand. Cassie, obviously. My coworker Jordan, who'd cut off his own father years ago and recognized the look in my eyes when I said I was done. My neighbor Mrs. Chen, who brought over dumplings one night and said, in her matter-of-fact way, family is the people who show up for you. Blood doesn't make them family. Love does. Emma's teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, became an unexpected ally. She called me in for a conference 6 months after everything happened, and I went in expecting bad news. Instead, she said, I wanted to tell you that Emma has really blossomed this year. She seems more confident, more secure. Whatever you're doing, it's working. I nearly cried right there in her classroom. There was an incident last month I wanted to mention, Ms. Rodriguez continued. Another student asked Emma why her grandma never comes to school events like the other grandmas. Emma said, my mom is enough. Then she went back to her art project like it was the simplest thing in the world. I did cry then. But the worst part, the part that still haunts me, came a year after the hospital incident. My father reached out. My father, who I barely had a relationship with after the divorce, who'd moved 3 states away and started a whole new life with a new wife and stepkids. He called me out of the blue on a Tuesday afternoon. I heard what happened between you and your mother, he said. I waited. I want you to know that I think you did the right thing. I almost dropped the phone. I should have done it years ago, he continued. Cut her off, I mean. She's always been manipulative. Always made everything about her. I just didn't have the guts to completely walk away because of you and Rachel. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because she called me last week. Asked me to talk to you, convince you to let her back into your life. She said she made a mistake but you won't forgive her. What did you tell her? I told her that some mistakes are too big to forgive. And that if she treated Emma the way she treated you growing up, then you were right to protect your daughter. There was a long pause. How did she treat me growing up? I asked quietly. You really don't remember? I remember some things. But I always thought I was being too sensitive. My father sighed, and it sounded like it came from somewhere deep and tired. She used to tell people Rachel was the pretty one and you were the smart one. Like you couldn't be both. She'd plan trips with Rachel and forget to invite you. She told me once that she loved you, but she liked Rachel better. My chest felt tight. She said that? She was drunk. But drunk words are sober thoughts, right? After we hung up, I sat in my car in the grocery store parking lot for 20 minutes. All these little memories kept surfacing. Birthday parties where Rachel got the bigger cake. School concerts where mom showed up late for mine but early for Rachel's. The time I got straight A's and she said, well, you've always been good at school, like it didn't count because it came easy to me. I buried it all. Told myself I was being paranoid, jealous, petty. But I wasn't. It had been real. All of it. And she'd done the same thing to Emma that she'd done to me. Decided one child was worth less than another, for reasons that had nothing to do with who we actually were. The difference was that this time, I stopped it. That night, I did something I hadn't done in months. I pulled out the box of letters my mother had sent me over the years. Birthday cards, Mother's Day cards, random notes she'd left in my apartment when she visited. I read through all of them. Every single one had a barb hidden in it. Happy birthday, sweetheart. 34 and still single, but there's still time. Congratulations on the promotion. I'm sure all those long hours will be worth it someday. Thank you for the Mother's Day gift. Rachel got me the same perfume, but the bigger bottle. How had I not seen it before? I threw them all away. Every card, every note, every scrap of paper with her handwriting on it. I took the box outside to the garbage bin and watched as the trash truck took it away the next morning. Emma came out to get the mail and saw me watching the truck. What you doing, Mom? Just making sure something's really gone, I said. She slipped her hand into mine. Was it important? I thought it was. But it wasn't. Okay. She squeezed my hand. Can we have pancakes for breakfast? Absolutely. The second year was easier than the first. The calls and texts stopped. My mother's attempts to reach me through third parties dried up. I heard through distant relatives that she'd eventually refinanced the house on her own, taken on a roommate to help with expenses, and gotten a new job at a different dental office. She was fine. She'd figured it out. Rachel got divorced. I heard about it through Facebook, which I rarely checked anymore. Apparently, her husband had been having an affair with someone from his office. She posted a long, bitter rant about betrayal and trust and how men were all the same. I didn't comment. I didn't reach out. I didn't send a message of support. A week later, she tried to call me. I didn't answer. She sent a text, "I get it now. What you were trying to tell me. I'm sorry." I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, wanted to accept the olive branch, wanted to believe that maybe we could rebuild something. But I'd heard her apologies before. I'd heard her promise to do better, be better. And every time, when it came down to a choice between me and Mom, between doing the right thing and keeping the peace, she chose wrong. I didn't respond to that text either. 3 years after that Christmas, Emma turned 10. We threw a party at a trampoline park, invited her entire class plus a few kids from her soccer team. It was chaos, pure beautiful chaos. Kids everywhere, pizza, cake, presents piled on a table, and Emma in the middle of it all, laughing so hard she couldn't breathe. Cassie pulled me aside during the party. "You did good, Mama." "She did good," I corrected. "I just provided the pizza." "No. Look at her. She's confident. She's happy. She knows she's loved. That's all you." I watched Emma bouncing on a trampoline with 3 other girls, all of them shrieking with joy. I was so scared I'd mess her up, I admitted. When I adopted her, I kept thinking, what if I'm not enough? What if she needs grandparents and aunts and uncles and big family gatherings? Does she look like she's missing anything? Emma did a flip and landed on her butt, then immediately bounced back up, grinning. "No," I said. "She doesn't." That night, after all the guests had gone home and Emma was in bed, exhausted and happy, I sat on the couch with a glass of wine and thought about what the past 3 years had taught me. I'd learned that cutting off toxic people doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a person who knows their worth. I'd learned that family is a choice, not an obligation. Emma chose me just as much as I chose her, and that choice meant more than any blood tie ever could. I'd learned that protecting your child isn't about shielding them from every hurt in the world. It's about teaching them that they deserve to be treated with respect, and showing them what it looks like to walk away from people who can't provide that. Most importantly, I'd learned that some bridges need to burn. Not because you're vindictive or cruel, but because the bridge was rotten and dangerous and keeping it standing only put you at risk. I got a letter from my mother on Emma's 10th birthday. It came in the mail, addressed in her careful handwriting, with no return address. I almost threw it away without opening it. But something made me pause. Inside was a single page, handwritten. "Dear, my name. I know you won't want to hear from me, but I needed to write this anyway. I've spent 3 years thinking about what I did wrong. I've been to therapy. I've read books about favoritism and family dysfunction. I've looked at old photos of you and Rachel growing up, and I've seen things I never let myself see before. I treated you like the responsible one. The one who didn't need as much attention, as much praise, as much love. I told myself you were independent, that you didn't need me the way Rachel did. But the truth is, I was more comfortable with Rachel because she was easier. She didn't challenge me. She didn't make me question myself. You always did. Even as a little girl, you asked hard questions and expected real answers. It was exhausting. And instead of rising to meet you, I pulled away. I did the same thing with Emma. I saw how much you loved her, and instead of being happy for you, I felt threatened. Like you'd chosen her over me. Over our family. It was stupid and selfish and wrong. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to let me back into your life. But I want you to know that I see it now. I see what I did, and I'm sorry. Emma is lucky to have you as her mother. I never told you that. I never told you that you were an amazing daughter, either. But you were. You are. I hope she has a wonderful birthday. Mom." I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully, put it back in the envelope, and placed it in my desk drawer. I didn't respond. I didn't call or text or reach out in any way. But I kept the letter. Because here's the thing about closure, sometimes it doesn't come from the other person. Sometimes it comes from finally hearing them admit the truth you've known all along. My mother was sorry. She understood what she'd done. And that was enough. Not enough to rebuild a relationship. Not enough to let her back into our lives. But enough to release the last bit of doubt I'd been carrying about whether I'd made the right choice. I had. 4 years after that Christmas, I met someone. His name was David. He was a middle school science teacher, and he had this gentle way of being in the world that made everything feel calmer. He met Emma on our third date because I'd learned not to waste time hiding important parts of my life. He brought her a book about marine biology because I'd mentioned she was interested in ocean animals. She talked his ear off about dolphins for 20 minutes, and he listened like she was giving a TED talk. "You're good with her," I said later, after Emma had gone to bed. "She's easy to be good with," he said. "She's a great kid. You've done an amazing job." It hasn't always been easy. The best things never are. 6 months into dating, David asked about my family. I'd been waiting for this conversation, dreading it. "I don't have a relationship with my mother or my sister," I said. "It's a long story, and it's not pretty." "You don't owe me the story," he said. "But I'm here if you want to tell it." So I did. I told him everything. The Christmas, the messages, the hospital, the years of gradually realizing I'd been undervalued my entire life. I waited for him to tell me I'd overreacted, that I should have tried harder, that family is family. Instead, he said, "Thank you for protecting Emma. And for protecting yourself." I fell a little bit in love with him right then. We got married 2 years later. Small ceremony, just close friends and Emma, who was our flower girl and took her job very seriously. She'd started calling David Dave naturally, never forced into calling him Dad, just letting their relationship build organically. My mother sent a card to my work address. I don't know how she found it. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a note for Emma's college fund. "Congratulations on the wedding." I didn't cash the check. I sent it back with a note, "Emma doesn't need your money. She needs people who value her. You proved you're not one of those people." It felt harsh. It probably was harsh. But it was also true. Emma is 13 now. She's in 8th grade, plays on a competitive soccer team, volunteers at an animal shelter, and wants to be a veterinarian. She's confident and kind and funny, with a friend group that supports her and teachers who adore her. She knows she's adopted. We've always been open about it. And sometimes she asks questions about her biological parents, which I answer as honestly as I can. But she's never once questioned whether she belongs in this family. Last month, we were driving home from soccer practice when she said, out of nowhere, "I'm glad it's just been us, you know? You and me, then you and me and Dave. I'm glad we don't have a bunch of complicated family drama." I glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Yeah? Yeah. Some of my friends have so much family stuff. Divorced parents fighting, grandparents who play favorites, cousins they have to see even though they're mean. It seems exhausting. It can be, I said carefully. "I'm glad you protected me from that." My throat got tight. "You remember? You were so young." "I remember some of it. I remember that Christmas. And I remember you always making me feel safe." "That's all I ever wanted," I whispered. "I know, Mom. And you did it." That night, I pulled out the letter my mother had sent on Emma's 10th birthday. I read it one more time, then I put it through the shredder. I didn't need it anymore. Because the thing about carrying around old wounds is that eventually, you have to choose, keep carrying them, or set them down and walk away. I chose to walk away. And every single day since that Christmas 7 years ago, I've woken up knowing I made the right choice. Not because it was easy. Not because it didn't hurt. But because the person sleeping down the hall from me, the girl who hums Disney songs and dreams about saving animals and calls me mom without hesitation, deserves a mother who will always, always choose her first. My mother forgot presents for my daughter on Christmas. She forgot because she didn't think Emma mattered. She didn't think Emma was really part of the family. So I helped her remember what it feels like when people you rely on forget about you. And I don't regret it for a second. Not one.